Bienvenidos, damas y caballeros, soldados y vuestros mercedes. Welcome back. I know it's been a long time since our last encounter, since the last video. I'm your host, Spanish Gallon, and today I want to talk to you about something that happened recently. From about December 22nd to about January 7th, I was traveling. And during that time, I visited another country, this country being Japan. So I wanted to talk about that and my experiences there. This isn't a vlog, this is more just like a recap of what occurred. Thought about doing a vlog. I even got a camera to record a lot of memories with it, but it kind of just felt weird, so I decided to just take a bunch of pictures and do sort of a slideshow presentation. But before I tell you about my journey, thank you so much for your support. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for more videos now that I'm back home and I can work on stuff again. That being said, let's dive right into it. So, why did I travel? The main reason to travel was because I wanted to visit a friend of mine. That was the entire impetus for it. Around the end of October, I bought the tickets, and what I did was I bought them in stages. So I bought a ticket from where I am to a major metropolitan area. So I went from wherever I am to Salt Lake, from Salt Lake to Los Angeles. Then I bought another ticket that took me from Los Angeles to Honolulu. And then I bought another ticket from Honolulu to Tokyo or Narita. And same thing going back. I bought a ticket from Tokyo, or this time Haneda, and I went to Honolulu. And then I bought another separate ticket to go from Honolulu to Los Angeles. And then from Los Angeles, I went to Seattle. And then from Seattle, I went home. From Los Angeles home was another ticket. 6 separate tickets, and I will put up the cost for each of them on the screen. The reason I did that was because it was slightly cheaper to do so. And again, this was like 2 months before I left. So it was slightly cheaper by like a couple $100. Although that came in clutch kind of because I missed the first flight and I had to pay like $370, $369 to catch my flight to Los Angeles. My trip came out to roughly the same as it would have been. Would I recommend it? Kind of, if you're in a pinch like I was. That and like a 1 hour flight or like a direct flight of 13 hours I could not do. So me splitting it up between the West Coast, Hawaii, and Nihon or Japan was probably the best option for me personally. Although in the future I probably would do it differently. I'd probably just take a straight 13-hour flight there. Oh, please bring back the Concorde so I don't have to do that. That was how I got to and fro. My travel dates were December 22nd to December 24th. I traveled. Like, I went from here to Japan. January 6th to January 7th, went from Japan back here. They're both 3 days of travel. It's just that Japan is like a day in front, so I gained a day. I lost a day going, but I gained a day coming back. That was how I traveled there. Okay, so I, for the trip, excluding the airfare, had about $2,300 USD to spend on what I could spend on, which was mostly accommodations and transportation. So I'll put up the receipt I have here of how much that gave me, and I'll put this receipt up here of how much I got back. So I started with 2,300, which was around 350,000 yen, 350,106 yen. And I had about 22,000 yen when I left, came to $160 USD. So I spent 93% of my original $2,300 in Japan. A large part of that was due to accommodations and using public transportation. So I didn't make any plans apart from buying the airfare to and from. When I landed, I realized quickly that I needed a place to stay. I had a couple of hostels in mind, but when I visited, they're like, no, you have to book in advance. So for that night, I was just like, okay. And I downloaded booking.com on my app on my phone, and from there that's where I made most of my reservations, and I would either do it the day of or the day before. And I think the most expensive accommodation was like $130 USD, which was like 17,000 yen. So yeah, for a few nights. Out of the 13 nights I stayed, 7 of those nights were in capsule hotels, which I'll talk about in a second, and 6 of those nights were in normal hotels. So just over half of my nights there were in these little capsule hotels, which was kind of cool. Personally, it was great sleeping in a capsule hotel. The pros are it's just enough space for me to go to bed. It's cheap. It's anywhere from like 20 to 50 bucks a night, probably more to 20 bucks / 30 bucks a night. It's cheap. It's effective. It's great for a solo traveler like myself. As you can tell, it was the majority of my stay. Cons, they may or may not have public baths, so you may or may not have to bathe with other men or other people. And most of them were in kind of high traffic areas, so take that as you will. And then the other 6 nights I stayed were in like traditional hotels, with one of those nights being like this hostel dorm or guest house. So yeah, that is what my accommodations look like and the money I took to and from. Also, sorry about the hair. I'll make another video about what I did to it, but for now, let's get back to it. Okay, so in this section, I'll show you what I took, because I took very minimal because my plans kind of changed on me last minute. So for clothing, I took a t-shirt, a sweatshirt or like a crew neck, rain jacket, some jeans, some socks, hiking boots, some thermal pants, and 3 sets of underwear. And then I'll show a picture of my outfit when I took. And I only took 1 change of clothes apart from the underwear, and I wore that through and through. If I smelled, I wasn't told, so apologies. Belated apologies, and sorry, not sorry. I also took some other things as well. I took the little Adidas bag, the camera bag, and a backpack with some other stuff. And surprisingly, it was sufficient to take that stuff and move that way. If I ever go back next time, I'll probably bring more, like a carry-on or something. But because, again, the situation changed and I had to shuffle things around, so that's what I took with me. Okay, now for the fun part. So, my itinerary. This is where I went during my 14-day, 13-night stay. I arrived the 24th in the afternoon, and then I left the 6th in the night. All their time. So from here on out, it's all in their time. Okay, so the 24th, 25th, and early morning of the 26th, I stayed in Tokyo. Then the 26th till noon. The 27th, I stayed in Kyoto. From noon about 27th until the morning of the 28th, I went to Nara and Osaka. The 28th, I went to Himeji and Hiroshima. That was the morning and afternoon. I arrived in Nagasaki the night of the 28th. So I was in Kyushu from the 28th to the 31st. The 30th, so the 29th, I spent in Nagasaki. 30th, I went to Shimabara and Minami Shimabara. So I took a day trip to Shimabara. The 31st in the morning, I left. I visited Okayama and Kojima the day and afternoon of the 31st. The night of the 31st into the morning of the 1st, I was in Tokyo. And then from the late morning of the 1st till the morning of the 4th, I was in Sendai and the surrounding areas. So the 1st, I was in Sendai. The 2nd, I was in Sendai. 3rd, I went to Hokkaido. And then in Hokkaido, I was in Hokuto and Onuma, and then went back to Honshu, and I was in Aomori, and then finally went to Sendai. And then again, I left the 4th from Sendai. I stayed the rest of the time, or almost the rest of the time, in Tokyo. So from the 4th until the 6th, I was in Tokyo. So the afternoon of the 4th, the entire day of the 5th, and the morning of the 6th, and evening of the 6th. Because 6th, from the morning until the late afternoon, I went to Okayama and Takamatsu, which is on Shikoku. And then the 6th as well, I left Japan, Tokyo, and I went to Honolulu for a day. And I was around the airport area in Honolulu for the 6th, and then finally I came back home. So that was my itinerary. So you may be wondering, what am I doing here? I will show you the route I took and what I saw here. So, but at the same time, I will also be showing you stuff in Total War Shogun 2, because I think it's a cute parallel. So, I landed in Narita, which is like here. Yeah, Narita. I landed in Narita, and I took the train all the way to Ueno. Here. which, if I'm not mistaken, was from about here all the way to about here. Because this is Edo, or Tokyo. So that was the 24th, and then I didn't do a whole lot. I just got my bearings. I had a hotel around here, and then the next day I did a bunch of sightseeing. So first I went to Akibahara and I explored here. Then I walked all the way down to Tokyo, and I explored this part of the Imperial Palace. I didn't get to go in because I had other business, but I was here, and when I'm visiting the areas, I'll put the images in the video. And then afterwards, I visited Tokyo, which is also like a shopping center as well, as you can see here. And then I went and I took the public transportation, which was mostly trains. I went to Shibuya, and I saw the Shibuya crossing. Then I went back, and then I went to Shinjuku Station, and I explored a little bit around, walked through here, came back, and then I took the train down to Roppongi, and then from Roppongi I took a couple pictures. I walked down here to Akenabashi, and then I saw the Tokyo Tower. And then I took that back home to Tokyo, and then I went to Ueno, and I explored a bit of Ueno Park, and then I called it for the night. That was the 25th. The 26th, I took the Shinkansen from Tokyo, I took the Shinkansen from Shinagawa, which is one of my favorite stations, all the way to Kyoto. So, if we go to Total War, I took the Shinkansen from Edo, past Odawara, past Sunpu, past Hamamatsu, past Okazaki, past Inazawa, past Otsu, and I arrived in Kyoto, which is here. This is the late stages. As you can see, I conquered all of Japan. So, yeah. I went from the Kanto region, which is here. Here's Mount Fuji. Kanto region to the Kansai region, which is this area here. So then I was in Kyoto, which was really cool. So in Kyoto, I was in Kyoto the 26th. I visited Higashi Hoganji Temple. I visited Nishi Hoganji Temple. And then I went north to the Imperial Palace. And technically, in the game, in Shogun 2, you take the castle, but it's supposed to be the Imperial Palace as well. So I spent a lot of time here. Then I came down here to the river, to the Kamo River, or Kamogawa. Walked all down here until I decided to visit. I visited the Samurai Ninja Museum here, and that was interesting. And then I went to my place here, I think. It was somewhere here. No, here. I went there. And then I had a couple of, I visited this bar here, and then that was my night in Kyoto. And then from Kyoto, I went down the 27th to Nara. And in Nara, I visited the Imperial Palace grounds. So I started from here, and then I visited all this, and I even went up here, and then I came back, and then from Nara, I made it all the way to Osaka Castle. And this was the 27th, if I'm not mistaken. So, nope, don't. So from Kyoto, I went down to Nara, which is like here probably. And then from Nara, I went through here to Osaka. But Osaka is more like here, Osaka Castle anyway. So I went to Osaka. So from Kyoto down here, then to Osaka, which is really cool. Like I literally visited this palace, and I'm trying to like get it to be up. So I visited Osaka Castle for a little bit, and then I walked through here until I made it to my hotel, which is like here, I think, which is like the nightlife district. Which again, Osaka is like over here. But so that was the night of the 27th. And in the morning, I went from Osaka Station all the way to Himeji, which was the 28th, if I'm not mistaken. So I went to Himeji Station, the 27th or 28th, and I went to Himeji Castle, which is here. Then I went back, took the Shinkansen. So from Osaka to Himeji, I took public transportation, or the JR line. But then from Himeji to Hiroshima, I took the Shinkansen. And in Hiroshima, I visited Hiroshima Castle, the parks here, and the Peace Park. And then a bit of exploring here. And then afterwards, I went back to Hiroshima, and I took the Shinkansen all the way to Nagasaki. I had a bit of complications, but I made it to Nagasaki, and then I spent the night there. I got there at night. That was the 28th. So the 29th, from my hotel like here, I went north and I visited the 26 Martyrs Museum here. That was just beautiful. And then I went back, and then I went north more until I made it to the Peace Park here, which is very interesting. Then I went to Urakami Castle Cathedral, and then I walked all the way here, all the way back to my hotel, I should say, apartment hotel. And then I walked down here to Dejima before retiring for the night. And then that was the 29th. So the 30th, I got up and I traveled to Ishihaya on the Shinkansen. And from Ishihaya, I took public transportation all the way to Shimabara. From Shimabara, I visited the castle ruins of Shimabara Castle here, which from Osaka all the way down here, this is Okayama, so Himeji's like here, past that to Hiroshima, which is like here maybe. Hiroshima's like here. And then from here down here down to about here, that's like Nagasaki right there. And then from Nagasaki to Shimabara, which is right there, and then right here to Minami Shimabara. So I took a bus, which is a journey from Shimabara all the way to Hara Castle or Harajo here in Minami Shimabara. So it's like here, I think. Yeah. I spent some time here, then I took the bus all the way back, and then I took the train all the way back to Isahaya, and then from Isahaya all the way back to Nagasaki. And then I rested for the night. And that was the 30th. So the 31st, I took the Shinkansen all the way to Shintosu, and then from Shintosu, I went all the way to Okayama, which I probably could have gone to Okayama Castle. Anyway, so from Minami Shimabara all the way back to Nagasaki, from Nagasaki all the way to Shintosa, Shintosa all the way to Okayama Castle, which I probably could have visited. From Okayama, I went down all the way here to, or here, I think it was here, to Kojima. So from Okayama all the way, yeah, here, this little town called Kojima. Here, Kojima, which in the game would be like right there. And I explored a little bit. I explored here. I went up here. I saw Kojima Jean Street, which is like here. They sell like literally jeans, like denim. And then I stayed in the park, and then I got on the train and I went back. Now, I thought I was in Shikoku, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Then I went from Okayama all the way back to Tokyo. And then from Tokyo, I made my way to Ueno, and then I stayed the night in like a apartment or like a complex here in the city street, which from Okayama all the way on the Shinkansen all the way back to Edo, which is a long distance. Again, my biggest expense on the trip was the Shinkansen, because it's like at least 11,000 yen every time. I mean, it really depends on how far you go, but for me, it was at least 11,000. So, and then I stayed the night. That was the 31st. I did the Okayama Kojima stuff. And then in the morning, I took the train all the way to Sendai. Yeah. Which in Shogun is from here, Edo. You went past Fukushima all the way to Miyagi Prefecture, where Sendai is. It's so cool that in the game, it's like the same thing as like in real life. And I have a couple stories to tell about this, but for now, I stayed in Sendai. I explored Sendai. I went around here. I explored this temple here. Well, I didn't explore the temple, but I explored like offshoots of it. Yes, I visited this shrine. I'm not even gonna pronounce that. And then I went across here, and I stayed at this park, and then I went back, and I went to this park. And I saw this as well, Sendai Christian Martyrdom Monument. I saw a lot of, I'll talk about it in the next section, but I saw a lot of these. Then I went back, and I stayed here, I think. It was like one of those, it was a place. That was the first. Then I stayed the night. And then the second, I explored Sendai Castle. And again, I just went there and went back. Actually, I kind of got lost here, the first, but I made it back. And then that was day 2, like literally January 2nd. And then January 3rd, I left Sendai in the morning. I traveled all the way north. All the way to Hokuto, or technically Shin Hakodate Hokuto, which is from here all the way north, Morioka. I passed through there. And this is Hachinose. So all the way here, past there, that's Aomori. All the way north here, past here, along here, through there. Through here until there. It's not on the map, but I was literally right there. So, pretty cool. Then I went and I took the wrong train and I made it all the way here to Onuma. I wandered around, then I got back. I went to Shin Hakodate Hokuto. And interesting note, there is a monastery here. I don't know. There's just a monastery. Anyway, from Hokuto, I took the train all the way down, or the Shinkansen all the way down to Aomori. And from Aomori, which from here, all the way down, it goes underground. And there's like a top speed of like 250 kilometers an hour. Crazy. All the way down here to Aomori. And from Aomori, I came around here. I went here. I traveled around. And then I moved over here. And there's like a park or something. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, there's like a park here. So I went here. Then I went over here. And then I went back. And it was really nice. And from here you could literally see Hokkaido, which is awesome. And then I took the train back to Shin Aomori, and from there the Shinkansen all the way back to Sendai. Look, Iwate. Ooh. No, Morioka. Literally. There's a castle here. Is it there? Probably. Yeah. All the way back to Sendai. So from here, all the way past here, all the way down this road, past Morioka Castle, all the way down to Sendai. Give me a second. Yamagata. Where is that? It's like here, is it not? Yeah, Yamagata. That's crazy. And that was the 3rd. And then the 4th, from Sendai, I left in the morning, came all the way back down to Ueno. If you couldn't tell, Ueno is like my favorite part of Tokyo. And then from Ueno, I walked all the way down I think it was here, to Minato City. Yeah. To here. There was my hotel near Mita Station. That was the fourth. That took about 2 hours from Ueno Station to Mita Station. I'm walking, which is Minato City. And there's a reason why. Because the fifth, I walked past Shiba Park, past Tokyo Tower again. I passed Hibiya Park. I did another round of the Imperial Palace. I went here through Kitanomaru, and then I didn't visit a whole lot of shrines, so I visited Yasukuni Jinja Shrine, which is very interesting. Then I went north to Tokyo Dome, Tokyo Dome City here, which is very interesting. And then I took the train back, or public transportation back to Mita Station, and then in the afternoon, I went to here, which was very important, and I'll tell you why. And then I went back. It's like a 15-minute walk, and then from Sendai all the way down to Edo. And then I realized, so the night or the afternoon of the 5th, I realized I never even set foot in Shikoku. And one of my things was I wanted to step foot on all 4 main islands, which Honshu is the main one here, then Hokkaido here, then Kyushu here, and then Shikoku here. And I realized I didn't do that. So in the morning of the 6th, when I had to leave, I took the Shinkansen from Tokyo, or technically Shinagawa, all the way past Hamamatsu. Nice. All the way past to Okayama. And then from Okayama, I took the train all the way to Takamatsu. Sanuki, nice. But as I was in Kojima here, an earthquake hit, which after we crossed the strait here, the train slowly rolled its way along for like an hour until it arrived at Takamatsu. It was so bad, I got scared that I didn't think I'd ever make it. So I just did a quick picture tour. I took pictures of the castle. I took pictures of the ocean here. Give me a second. So from Edo all the way to Okayama. From Okayama, I took the train down here. And then Takamatsu is like right there. So Takamatsu. I literally visited this castle with Sanuki being here, but I couldn't do a whole lot except take pictures of the castle fortifications and the sea because there was an earthquake and I didn't think I'd make it back on time, which was a good thing because I literally took I literally got out of there. I got out of Dodge from Takamatsu back to Okayama. From Okayama all the way back to Tokyo or Edo, and I made it with about an hour and a half to spare. So thankfully, I made it in time. But from Takamatsu, again, I took the train all the way back to Okayama. From Okayama, I literally breezed past a lot of these places. Back to Shinagawa. From Shinagawa, I took the train to Haneda airport, and then from Haneda I caught my flight. So that was my itinerary. Okay, and now I'm going to talk about the major and minor sites that I visited and what I did. So obviously I visited Akibahara, I visited Edo or Tokyo, the castles. I visited Shibuya, specifically Shibuya Crossing, Shinjuku, the station and the areas around the station, Roppongi, the station itself, and then I walked down a street, and then Ueno. I gotta make this note. I watched Hololive English third generation Advent. A year ago, or in 2024, they did their 3D debuts. One of the talents, or one of the channels of the talents, called Wamoko. They did a skit where they wrestled their 3D avatars, and I'm pretty sure it was either Akibahara or Roppongi Station. I swear, when you see the photos, it kind of looks like that. And then Ueno Park. And this was me getting familiar with the place and not really knowing what I was doing. Because again, apart from the airplane travel, I kind of just winged most of the adventure. So I took a lot of back roads as well. Then when I went to Kyoto, I visited some temples. It was really interesting. It was really peaceful. I also visited the Imperial Gardens and the palace. And as you saw, me playing Shogun 2, I literally was on the verge of tears because it was just so beautiful. It was literally beautiful. And then I wandered down the riverside, and that was really peaceful as well. It kind of looked like the animes when the characters go to a river, because most of the rivers I've seen, they did the embankment. So it would be the river, an embankment, and then past the walk, and then after you pass the embankment would be the houses and stuff. And then I also visited a ninja museum in Kyoto, and that was really cool. They really they taught about the histories of ninjas and a bit of the history of Japan. I even got to hold a katana, and I did the whole "Omae wa mon shinderu nani?" I even held one of the Tanegashima, like the Japanese-made flintlocks, which was really heavy. It was like at least 10 pounds. And then afterwards, during the night, I passed by this Spanish bar, the Spanish tapas bar. And I'm gonna tell you this story. So I'm just walking by, I see the flag of Spain. I'm like, okay, I'll come back to it later. I did the rest of the stuff I did in Kyoto during the day. And then at night, around like 5 or 6, I was like, I'll give this a shot. I walk over there, and I literally had the time of my life. First, I entered, and the guy's like, hey, where are you from? And I was disappointingly, well, he asked me, do you speak Spanish? I was like, yes, but I'm from America, because he asked me where I'm from. I was like, oh, but don't worry, I'm still Hispanic. He's like, yeah. And then we got to talking there, and I had a couple drinks, and he was just telling me about how he just came to Japan 1 year and never left. I mean, he went back and forth, but he just been there, and he opened up this restaurant, and I was like, wow, dude, he's been here 23 years? And I was standing because it was literally like a tapas bar. I had, I kid you not, jamon iberico, my first jamon iberico in Kyoto, which is insane. That's insane. He also told me this funny story that because of some disease that happened in some outbreak that affected jamon iberico in España, that his was like the last import because Japan banned it for like 10 years or something. It was crazy. I kept drinking, and then there's this other guy, this other traveler who came by with his girlfriend, and he was from Spain, but his girlfriend was from Paris. He came in, he asked the guy the same things I did. Also, the guy had like this poster on the wall where you had a pin where you were from, and he had a poster of the world and a poster of Japan. And that pin had been, or those maps have been up since 2020, and they were almost filling up the entire thing. But then me and the guy start talking. He's talking about, oh, what am I doing here? Oh, I'm just visiting. I'm alone. Just taking in the sights, trying to go through as much of Japan as possible. And he's like, yeah, if you ever go here, go blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah. My previous observations was that, and we just got talking about Japan and stuff, and how most of the Japanese people I saw were they just went from point A to point B. The people in Osaka, because I was going to Osaka the next day, were very different. And I do agree, people from Osaka have a lot more personality than, say, Tokyo or Kanto. But anyway, and then he had to leave, but I stayed. And then during that time, 2 women and then 2 men, all of them in their like 50s, they came in because they made reservations or something, and they were talking to the guy because the owner and his assistant both spoke Japanese, but the owner was from Barcelona and the assistant was from Kobe. So I'm talking to this guy Kobe and asking him what he likes to eat, ordering his food, drinking more beer, talking to him about what he does, why he learned Spanish, because he was learning Spanish. He was like, oh, I saw the World Cup in 2010 and saw Spain won. I was like, yes, I want to do that. He even spent some time in Spain. I was like, wow, interesting. When he came back, he met the owner and things just went from there. And he'd been there for like 5 years, I want to say. 5, 6 years. But then the other people, the two women, they were sisters, an older and a younger. And then the two men were, I think, workers or friends. But they were all from like the Kansai region, from Kyoto, I think. But then the older sister came in and was talking to the chef and, well, I mean the chef, the owner. Well, he was the chef as well. And then for some whatever reason, I think I was roped into it, and they called me my name and then san, which, oh my gosh, you gotta understand, guys. I'll talk to it in my impressions section, but like that was like the first and only time anyone mentioned an honorific to me. I was like, absolute cinema, absolute cinema. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I got talking to these people because they invited me over. They're like, oh wow, you really got emotional because we called you san, my name san. I was like, yes, you don't understand. So the lady invited me over, and then we got talking, and let me tell you, I got to avoid the drink because I was literally having the time of my life. They asked me about what I was doing there, and I responded, I'm visiting a friend. They asked me how did I know about Japan? I told them I learned a lot from games and books. Well, mostly my friend, because he had been a Japanophile for years. It had been his dream to study in Japan, and he did that. And so I'm just along for the ride. They asked me if I ever wanted to live here or work here. I was like, I don't know about that. I have other obligations I gotta take care of, but like living there for a long term, maybe not. They asked me, why am I so interested in Japan? And I told them, apart from my friend, the game Total War Shogun 2, and I had all this time I'm speaking like broken Japanese. This game Total War Shogun 2, and they're like, what's that? It's like, I don't know. It's a game where you try to become shogun. You're daimyo, you try to become shogun. They're like really impressed because there's a similar game in Japan called Nobunaga's Ambition, which is the Eastern version of Total War Shogun 2. So once I made that connection, they're like, wow, you really know your stuff here. And then one of the younger sister had kids, well, a boy and a girl. The boy probably played these strategy type games. My guess was like Europa Universalis, but I digress. So they were like really impressed. And then I started naming off the different clans that I knew of, the Matsudaira, Tokugawa, Toyotomi, Oda, Date, Mori, Otomo. I told them I visited the museum, and I was sad because they didn't have the Otomo clan, because the Otomo were like Christians. So I told them my dream is to visit the Buzen or Beppu, which is like Kitakyushu, and yeah, visit the ancient Otomo lands. And then they asked me, wow, you're really knowledgeable. I told them about the anime that I watched as well, K-On, Girls on Pansert or Garupan, High School DxD. And then I got talking about the Sengoku Jidai era and how I like knew a little bit about that, and they were all really impressed. And then they asked me about other things, that like what did I want to do, and I told them I really wanted to explore all of Japan. In my mind, I'm like, I'm never gonna come back here. At the time, they're like, oh yeah, where are you going? I'm like, how do I say this? Today or tomorrow, Osaka, or Nara, Osaka, and then the day after, Hiroshima, or Himeji, Hiroshima, then Nagasaki. Or no, I said Hakata or Fukuoka, but I didn't get to go. But I didn't know that time. And they were like, what? The two women, because they planned a trip the day I was supposed to be in Hiroshima. And they were like, oh, we should definitely go. I was like, okay, sure. If we see each other, we could definitely join up. But they talked about their livelihoods. They talked about what they did. They asked me questions. At one point, the lady was like, the younger sister showed me a picture of Nobunaga's Ambition. I was like, yeah, that's the one. And they're like, oh my gosh, he knows so much. They told me about the history of Kyoto, the different sites to see. And surprisingly, they had decent English. I don't know if it's because so many foreigners go there. They just knew enough English to like get by. And then they asked some more questions like, what do you want to do here in Japan? And I told them I wanted really my three main criteria, which I'll spill now: visit Catholic sites, buy plushies, and then visit other historical sites. The plushies one It didn't exist. So, but the other two, the Catholic sites and the historical sites, there were so many Catholic sites that I visited. It was just beautiful. And then there's so many historical sites I visited too. I didn't have time to visit them all. I want to go back to just visit them all. But yeah, they were like really impressed that I knew where I wanted to go. Like they told me like, what did you want to see? I was like, I want to go to Nagasaki, and then I want to go to Shimabara. They're like, Shimabara, really? Yeah. And then I tried to explain to them I wanted to go to Hara Castle, which is Harajo, but I didn't know how to say Joe at the time. And they're like, Hara Castle, yeah. The Shimabara Rebellion, and they're like, wow, you really know Japanese history. And they asked me like, oh, are you Catholic? I'm like, yeah. Are you Christian? I was like, yes, I'm a Catholic. I'm like, yes, I'm Christian. And they're like, Catholic? And I was like, yes, Católico. And then I try to explain to them my connection with it and how, I love Spain, and Spain is Catholic and stuff like that. I mentioned at some point, my ancestral animals were the eagle, the lion, and the bull, like, because my last name is one of those animals, and I try to explain to that I feel like a connection with that. Yeah, they were just all around impressed. I even impressed them with my knowledge of Japanese. There's this term, it's called Mrs. Watanabe, or the Watanabe woman, or the kimono trader, and it's a stereotype. From my understanding, it was basically Japanese men work, but they give their earnings to their wives, and then their wives are the spenders. They manage the finances. So American companies would advertise to women more than men, because again, the women held the household finances. And I tried to explain it to them, like, woman in Japan is ona no hito, ona meaning female, hito meaning person, female person. And I try to explain that, like, the woman spends the money, and they didn't really understand it. Like, even the bar owner, he was like, I've never heard of that in my 23 years. But then his assistant looked it up, and then he explained it to them. And then one of the guys like shook my hand. He was like, you know me. Because I basically explained a concept that is very prominent in his part of the world, which is Shiga Prefecture, which is where Lake Biwa is. And he was just amazed that I even knew that, because he didn't even know that. I mean, he didn't know the term. He knew the concept, but he didn't know the term. So they were all really impressed that I knew this. And I told them, I just like to learn, and Japan has a lot of interesting stuff to learn about. So I learned about it. And then obviously they asked me if I had a girlfriend. I said no, I didn't. And then they asked me like, hey, would you like a Japanese girlfriend? They obviously meant it in like a really nice way. I was just like, oh yeah, sure, but like, I don't know if I could. I'm kind of weird and kind of different. When I said weird, I used the word hen, which hen is like strange or abstract. It's literally just like, strange is the best adjective, but it's like different bad. When you say someone's strange comes with that connotation of you don't go near it because it's just too different for you to explore. I used hen, and they're like, no, you're not hen. You're more omoshiroi. I was like, I guess, because omoshiroi is like, or no, interesting. Omoshiroi is interesting. They taught me some words as well. Like when they were asking me about the girlfriend stuff, I told them, no, I'm not, I don't really know if, ona no hitos, because ona no hito is like woman, but ona no ko is like girl, like a girl. So I was like, ona no ko is, I don't know. And they're like, no, use joshi, use joshi. Joshi is like high school girl. But yeah, I told them maybe not. And they asked me if I wanted an AI girlfriend. It's probably the only option I have left. But no, they were like they were very impressed that someone like myself even had an inkling of interest and, I guess, respect for Japanese customs or ways, or just Japan in general. They were very impressed. They made me drink a lot. I had 2 beers, Voldam, which is a Spanish brewery in Barcelona, so the guy's hometown, which they were really good. Those beers were really good. Then I met them, and they asked me to drink some more, and I drank a bunch of wine. They had an entire bottle to themselves, and I helped them finish the bottle. I had like 2 glasses of wine. I also ordered another Voldam, so I had 3 beers, 2 wines. There's a saying, wine before liquor makes you sicker. So yeah, I committed one of the cardinal sins. Wine before liquor makes you sicker. Or that's the way I learned it. Which I had liquor, wine, then liquor. I had the worst headache the next morning. But no, I just kept downing them, and then I had some paella, and like I said, I had jamon iberico, or the only one, probably the last one in Japan, which was insane. And then I had like, I forgot what it was, but it was like fishes, like little anchovies. But yeah, if you're ever in Kyoto, please visit. It's literally the southeast corner of the Imperial Palace. It's called Tato's Bar. 10 out of 10. I'm definitely going back there again. Really, really great time. But yeah, again, I don't remember too much from the conversation, but we went back and forth. They also did a bunch of like talking in between themselves, and I just could not understand. I had my homeboy tell me like, hey, what are they talking about? Because I didn't know. Because again, they spoke surprisingly good English for what they did. The two men were salarymen and they were married, and I think they were friends. The two women were family. The younger sister was married with kids, and then the older sister wasn't. The older sister, the one who called me my name, San, and invited me to join them. She actually worked abroad in Nicaragua before coming back to Japan and working there. So I think they were all from the Kansai region, if not Kyoto itself. So she spoke some Spanish as well. And I obviously love Spain and anything to do with Spain. But again, as the night went on, they asked me what my plans were, and I let it be known that I was going to Hiroshima, and the two sisters were going to Hiroshima. They really, really, really wanted to invite me to see Hiroshima. They're like, if you don't mind at all, we would really love to take you out in Hiroshima. I was like, yeah, of course. But in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm visiting Himeji, and then I'm visiting Hiroshima. Oh, by the way, my phone was off the entire time. I literally went there blind. I mean, not off, but like on airplane mode. I did a tech detox, which was really good for me. I really got to think again. But anyway, they were really wanting me to go, and I was like, okay. So I go to pay my tab because any more alcohol, I'm gone. I'm gonna be waking up on the street, and I have to go to Nara and Osaka next. I go to pay my tab, and I asked the assistant, like, hey, I got a question. How much is my tab? Well, I said, "Kaike onegaishimasu. La cuenta." Oh, yeah, the assistant, he was from Kobe as well. All the details are slipping my mind because I'm forgetting them, and I was I was inebriated. I couldn't remember. I asked him, for the check. He said, came back. And then I had in my head, hey, how much... I got a question. How much would it cost to pay for their tab? And he was like, what? Yeah, to pay for that tab. I was like, oh, okay, let me do the math. I was like, okay, it came out to 30,000 yen or something. Okay, I think I'll pay for them. He's like, what, really? Yeah. I was like, I explained to him because everyone else was busy. I have so much money. It didn't even put a dent. I still had like 22,000 left over. If you're going to go to Japan, go now because the yen is weak AF and the dollar goes really far there. Regardless, so he was like, wow, you're really friendly. You're really simpatico. Again, you're really friendly. I was like, yeah. So I went back, drank a little more, talked a little more. I don't remember what. I'm pretty sure I was talking about other things. I just don't remember. We just talked, and then came time to pay. And I committed one of the cardinal sins you never do to Asian people. I went to the assistant and I paid my tab and their tab fully. Like, I just paid for all of it. And then I went back and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go. And then it got leaked out that I paid for their tab, and I was like, what? Because they were gonna leave too. I was like nearby, so I could walk there, but they had to take a car, so they had to leave too. You never pay for another Asian person. There's like this cultural thing where they fight to see who pays first. People in Asia like to pay for things. Like, they want to take it on themselves to pay for others because it's a sign of respect and generosity. And it's also to do with their honor and stuff. Ideally, you never pay for another Asian person's tab, regardless. And here am I dropping. I dropped about 50,000 yen. I just was like, yeah, sure, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. They were like, no, let us pay you back. I was like, no, please, it's from the kindness. I had to like explain to them. I had to get the chef, the owner, to like try to explain to them that I just wanted to be kind to them. They asked me, why did you do this? It's because you called me San. Like, you called me my name, San. One guy, because he was so impressed with how I knew about Japan and how I talked about the history, the Sengoku Jidai, the Empress Amaterasu, and her grandson, Jimju. Yeah, so Amaterasu, literally the sun goddess. Her great grandson, the first emperor of Japan, Emperor or Tenno Jimju, because they taught me the word for emperor's Tenno. I was like, Tenno, like Tennohaka Banzai. Yeah, I mean, I obviously was speaking to them in my broken Japanese all throughout the night. I try to come up with original thoughts in Japanese as well, and they would compliment me like, it's really, you could speak Nihongo or Japanese pretty fine. I'm like, no, I know, watashi no Nihongo wa chatto warui desu, which is something to the effect of, my Japanese is kind of bad. It's a little bit bad, but warui is like a really strong negative, which that's fine. And I play it to myself. How am I supposed to speak the language? I even asked one of the women during the night, like, do I speak like a baby? Watashi no nihongo wa babu babu desu. Babu babu, because it's from like Hololive. But I didn't say I learned some of my Japanese from VTubing. Overall, it was an interesting night. Obviously, I paid for them. They were really, really, really grateful. The ladies really wanted to take me to Hiroshima. They promised to meet me there. I promised them I'd try to find them. As we'll see, it didn't pan out. But yeah, not the next day, but the following day, which in Japanese is asate. And then the elder sister gave me a bag of like sweet persimmons, and I was just like, oh, okay. I mean, they weren't bad. I was just like, okay, cool. I bid them all farewell. I'm pretty sure if I ever go back to Kyoto, I have friends there, because they even showed me some like spots I should visit. And again, one of the guys who taught me about Tenno and the history of Japan, and again, near the end, they all wanted my number because I just was such a joy to be with them. My phone was in airplane mode. They were like, do you have Line? No. Do you have this? No. Do you have Telegram? No. WhatsApp? I was like, no. Come on, you have a WhatsApp. Well, some guy even gave me his, the guy who told me about Tenno, and he was like, you are honorary Japanese. Your Japanese name is now Tadanobu. And he showed me, it was a picture of some actor. I'll pull it up. He gave me his card, and it's like, they all really wanted to like keep in touch with me. But again, I have this self-destructive tendency to just like, no, I'm fine. I just wanted to go, and I wanted to experience it. And I didn't even know if I had to come back, because Japan has a bunch of rules that are coming in. But regardless, I bid them all farewell, and I went off, and I made it back to my place, and I just went to bed, and in the morning I got a bad headache. And that was the 26th. That was Kyoto. When I woke up the 27th in the early morning, I had a massive headache. My head was beaten. So I went to the kombini to just get some alleviation, and I didn't leave until like 11. I got a late start to my day because I was hungover. But when I was able to, I traveled all the way down to Nara, and I visited the Imperial site, the Imperial grounds. I didn't see any deer because that's not a park, but I did see the Imperial grounds and all that, and I even visited a couple of other odd areas as well. But then because it was getting late, I decided to move on to go to Osaka. So then I got on the train, I went to Osaka. I got off, I was at Osaka-jo Koen, which is Japanese for Osaka Castle Park, and I explored Osaka-jo, for like a couple hours. It was really pretty. There's also a story attached to this. So as I was finishing up the main attractions of Osaka Castle, these two gentlemen came up to me because I was taking pictures with my camera, and they asked me in English, two Japanese men asked me in English, hey, do you want us to take a picture? I was like, oh, no, it's okay, thank you so much. And then they asked, okay, well, we are inventors or entrepreneurs, and we wanted to share an idea with you if you had time, or like take a survey. I was like, oh yeah, hi. And then they're like, oh, you speak Japanese? And I was like, watashi no nihongo chotto warui desu. It roughly translates to, oh no, my Japanese is kind of bad, or a little bit bad. And they're like, oh no, sugoi desu ne, which means like, no, it's really good. And then they asked me where I was from. I said, America. Part of America, California. They're like, oh, America, oh my gosh, California. I used where my previous homeland was, because I don't currently live in the Golden State. I don't live in the Golden State. However, for all intents and purposes, most of my identification is in the Golden State. So it's the easiest for me to play off. But yeah, they asked me, how did I get to speak Japanese like that? Because they were astonished that a foreigner actually took the time to, like, maybe not astonished is a difficult word, but they're really impressed that a foreigner took the time to try to learn Japanese. And I told them, oh, I learned it online. I was like, oh my gosh, really? What did you use? I used this app. Do you mind if I ask you the name of the app? Sure. It was Busu, and one guy didn't know, but the other guy was like, oh, I've heard about that. Yeah, I used that for about a year or so. Then they went into their sales pitch. Well, they're like, okay, if you don't mind us asking, we'd like to pitch this idea to you. And in a nutshell, the idea was a magnet that also doubled as a photo storage or photo memory storage as well. So you would like Apple Pay or Card Pay, you tap your phone. Imagine this was the magnet. You would just tap your phone, and then it would automatically transfer the files. You could like transfer your photos to the memory storage, or the photos would transfer to your phone, and then they'd play like an animation or something. And he gave me a little demo of it, and it was really, really interesting. So they asked me like a couple of questions, and I tried to respond in Japanese. They were impressed that I took the time to like learn some Japanese phrases, not all of them, not even enough of them. So they asked me 4 questions. One was basically, is this product like useful? And I said, yes, it is useful. They had like this laminated poster card or laminated piece of paper that had the question in Japanese and English, your responses. So I would point to it and be like, oh, this one the first question was basically, is this a useful thing? Is this a good invention? And I was like, yes, it is. Second thing was, do I think this technology is unprecedented? And I was like, yes. However, I don't think unprecedented would be the correct word. It's an adjective. Unprecedented means never done or known before. Pretty sure someone has already invented this somewhere, so it's not like unprecedented. So I was telling them like unprecedented, yeah, unprecedented, maybe not. Maybe you should say like innovative or something. Because unprecedented, and I try to like explain unprecedented. Unprecedented is more like for people, because you do something. For example, every time I go to Japan, I go to Osaka Castle or Osaka, and then nothing else. I go back. Unprecedented would be like after 5 times, my 6th time, I go to Tokyo, or I go to Hokkaido, or I go to Kyushu. That would be unprecedented. It's never done before, because my routine is always going to Osaka. So I try to get it across like, yeah, unprecedented is more like for people and stuff. Like I never did something, or something's unprecedented in law. It's never been done before. Whereas innovative is more so of a product idea featuring new methods, advanced, original. This was a magnet that had something new with it, or something advanced, photo storage. So I told them like, yes, I would not use unprecedented. I would use more innovative. Is this product innovative? And for most people, they'd say, yeah. Obviously, unprecedented, innovative kind of mean the same thing, because it's like new. But again, unprecedented was more like for people. Innovative is more for like for things and items. And yeah, the guy was like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. I learned something today. In my mind, I was like, let me try to teach them some American business techniques. I'm born and raised in a capitalist society. I'm a capitalist king when I have to be. That was the second question. And then they asked the third question. If this product was like in a sea of other products, would you choose it? And I said, no, I wouldn't. And I was like, oh, okay, why? And I explained to them, like, if I saw this magnet with other magnets that just were normal, I wouldn't even think twice of it. I'd see the price of the one magnet and see the price of the other magnet, and I just move on. Because I would look at the price and then see if I even wanted it in the first place. And then I explained to them, I think it'd be best if in the store you had like separate sections. So you could have like one that's just normal magnets, and then one like you put the item on and you spin it, and there's another one there, and you spin it and there's another product there, and you spin it and there's another product there. Like those types of things. I said if you had like a special section of those magnets, then I'd be more inclined to like buy one, because my focus is on those and not on the sea of magnets. If I wanted another magnet, I'd focus on there, and then I make my purchase. So you kind of have to like isolate people to your product. So you kind of have to make it flashy to attract them, isolate them, and then from there, since they already took that step, they probably will buy it. So I told them for question 3, no, I wouldn't buy it, but I did give them advice like, hey, you should probably like give it its own section so that people are more likely to view it and thus buy it. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. Because they were like, again, they were entrepreneurs. Question number 4, how much extra yen or money would you charge for this? And it was like 100, 300, I know 100, 500, 1,000, 1,500. And I said, if this product, and they told me this product is 500 yen, or the magnet's 500 yen, how much extra would you add on? And I chose 500 yen because 500 plus 500 is 1,000. I try to explain to them that like round numbers or something that's paid by like a bill is much more appealing, because if I'm paying with cash or card or whatever, if it's like a round number, it's more easily justified. Like you give me 2 items, one is $4.99, one is $10. Realistically, I'm going for the $4.99 one, because I could just pay 5 and then get a cent back. I mean, assuming no taxes and stuff. However, if you gave me the choice between $4.99 and 5, I don't want to carry around extra weight, so I'll just pay the $5 and then be done. So I try to tell them like numbers that end in 0, because it's easier, because it's just a bill or a coin or whatever, and you just pay it and then don't have to think of it again. So I try to get that across to them as well. Yeah, they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, you can even do like 1,500 yen just to make it 2,000, but because for me, it's like with the capitalist mindset, it's like this product is great. You should earn a little bit of money, because 500 yen is like, if I'm not mistaken, it's like $3 for that little thing for a magnet already. It's adding another 1,000 yen, which is like $6, $7. Pay $10 and I get a magnet that has a bunch of memories. It's a no-brainer. There's a potential to make a lot of money off of that. And then I don't remember, and that was the questions they asked me, and they were like, "Thank you very much for answering." And I don't remember if this was before or after, but they asked me like, what did I like about Japan so far? And I told them, I explained to them as best I could that like here everything is cheap, so my money is like really good. So like I could go to the kombini. I give them an example. I could go to the kombini, pick up 5 things, and it's like 1,000 yen, which is like again like $6. I go to the local convenience store, pick up one thing, it's already $5. And I explained to them it was America's takai, which means like expensive. But then I also was like, well, to be fair though, that's American money here and there. But if I had like made Japanese money in Japan, I'd be in the same situation anyway, or in a similar boat. They both understood English enough. I guess they talked to enough foreigners or they took enough English courses. But some concepts, some more advanced concepts like money and exchange is still lost to them. Like they could interpret it, same for me, in English or sorry, in Japanese, but then translate it English. Like I told them, I buy one thing from Kobe for like $5, and then the guy had to explain like $5 is like 1,000 yen or something. That was that. Afterwards, they asked me after they did the interview, and it was really nice talking to me. And if they wanted to take a photo, I was like, oh sure. Do you want me to like do poses like? They took a selfie. There was one guy, the other guy, and then they took a selfie. I was like, I see a lot of idols do that. So afterwards, I bid them. They gave me this like little weird red bean candy. It was like a hard shell with the red bean inside, and it was like kind of like if you took a Tootsie Roll. How many licks does it take to get to the center of Tootsie Pop? Well, let's find out. 1, 2, 3. So you took that ball, and it was just that kind of candy, but red bean paste inside. So they gave me a couple of those, and I was just like, okay, nice. And I was like, oh, it's like from the anime. Like, what? And it's like, yeah, red bean paste foods and pastries and stuff like that. I was like, oh yeah, anime, yeah, because anime is kind of big in America. I was telling them like, yeah, it's very much a part of the culture now. They're like, oh, wow, interesting. And so I'm pretty sure I made their days. But yeah, they bid me farewell. I bid them farewell, and then I went on my journey. I took a bunch of photos of Osaka Castle from all different angles. There's so many, so I'm gonna choose the best ones. I moved on. I walked my way all the way to my hotel, and hotel I was staying at was like a capsule hotel, and it was in like right in the center of the nightlife district of Osaka, or one of them. I just stayed indoors and I just went to bed and woke up and then left. So that was the 27th. I woke up early on the 28th. I left. I checked out. I took a public train to Himeji Castle. It was interesting to me because I thought I had to take the Shinkansen. No. I could take a normal, well, I shouldn't say normal, but a normal JR train. And JR is standing for Japan Railways. So I took it from all the way from Osaka Station to Himeji Station. So I arrived at Himeji Station. I walked about a kilometer north, get to a Himeji Castle. Unfortunately, because it was 28th, from about the 26th to about the 4th, most things in Japan, most like attractions are closed just to give people time off. It's a very traffic heavy time of period as well. Himeji Castle was closed, but I was able to go around the front areas and even go in a little garden there. So yeah, I took pictures of Himeji Castle, or Himeji-jo. I left, went back to Himeji Station, got on the Shinkansen, and I went to Hiroshima. And this is the 28th. So I get to Hiroshima, and I mentioned before that in Kyoto, I was asked by the women we could meet in Hiroshima. So I was like, yeah, sure, of course. I don't remember because I was inebriated. I don't remember where we were supposed to meet up. If they asked me that, all I remember was that they wanted to meet up and take me out to view Hiroshima. It's like, yeah, sure, I could do that. I only heard about the Peace Park, Hiroshima Peace Park. In my mind, I was like, okay, well, I'll meet them in Hiroshima Peace Park. I don't know why I thought that. I don't know why I thought out of a sea of similar looking Asian people or Japanese people, I'd find them. Regardless, I got to Hiroshima Station. I walked down to the park. Along the way, I passed by Hiroshima Castle. I took a bunch of pictures there. It was really nice. And then I went to the park. I saw the atomic dome, the Peace Dome. Traveled extensively along the bank of the river and the Peace Park and Peace Garden. And I waited for them. I waited, and then I went go off exploring because I realized, how am I going to find them in a sea of, Asian people? So I explored around the Peace Garden. I explored more towards the west. I got some food. I came back, waited some more. Then I went away, explored some more parts, waited. Then I sat down. I found a quiet little area. Sat down. I ate, and I realized, yeah, they're not gonna show up. I went to this. They had an atomic bomb memorial that was free. I explored that. It was really peaceful and serene. And then afterwards, I waited a little more, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna get going now. So then I walked back to Hiroshima Station, and then I took the Shinkansen from Hiroshima all the way to the Shintosu station. So I make it to Shintosu, and it's night, or it's late afternoon, so it's already dark out. I'm supposed to take a train from Shintosu all the way to Nagasaki. I don't realize there is no local train that goes from Shintosu to Nagasaki. Shintosu is like in the middle of Kyushu is here, and then it has an offshoot like there, whereas Nagasaki, Shintosu is like right there before the offshoot. I bought a local train ticket and got on what is known as the Limited Express to Nagasaki, but it takes you from Shintosu to Takeo Onsen, but it's essentially a Shinkansen. And again, Shinkansen is Super Express. So Limited Express, Super Express. The Super Express is what we call the bullet train, but the Limited Express is just a normal train that just stops at a couple stations, just like the Shinkansen, but it doesn't go like 200 kilometers an hour. So I realized I messed up when I got to Takeo Onsen, and I wanted to like get out, but I couldn't. I literally could not, because all the tickets were Shinkansen tickets, and I didn't have Shinkansen tickets. I get on the Limited Express from Takeo Onsen back to Shintosu. On my first time from Shintosu to Takeo Onsen, they didn't check for my tickets. This time they did, and I had to explain to the guy checking the tickets, like, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I need to go back to Shintosu. I can't speak Japanese. Like, okay. He was understanding enough. He was like, okay, got it. And then I just felt embarrassed. To be fair, the Limited Express goes from Takeo Onsen all the way to Hakata. I didn't realize that until I got to Takeo Onsen, and I was like, I see, they're connected. Because the Shinkansen itself goes from Nagasaki to Takeo Onsen. It doesn't go to Shintosu or even Hakata, which is where Fukuoka is, or just south of Fukuoka. So I get off at Shintosu. I get out. Luckily there's no one to check my ticket. See, that didn't work, so I just went through. And then I bought a Shinkansen ticket. And then I got back on the platform, waited for the Limited Express. Got on the Limited Express. They checked my ticket. It was all good to go. At one point, I even handed them a ticket, but one of them fell. I was like, oh, okay, give me a second. And then here you go. Dozo means here. And then I got off from Shintosu to Takeo Onsen, from Takeo Onsen to Nagasaki, and it was like 8 or 9 or something. So I spent a couple hours being lost, and it was chilly. It wasn't like cold, but it was still like chilly. Bring your layers if you have them. Got to the hotel, some konbini food, ate, and then went to bed. That was the 28th. So I woke up the 29th, and I explored maybe not most, but all the interesting sites of Nagasaki. I went to Nishiki Hill, where they had the 26 Martyrs Museum. I gotta take a hot minute to talk about that, because they had so many documents and so many paraphernalia and just so much. They even had a few relics there that I prayed at. It was just incredible. 10 out of 10 would recommend. It's like 500 yen, so it's like $3 per person. You could get a discount if you have like 20 or more people. It is so worth it. So many paintings and profiles. They even have, and this is one of the reasons I loved it, they even have something called Las Siete Partidas, which means the 7 parts, which was Spanish law in Japan. What? To give you a brief rundown, it was Roman law, then it transitioned to Visigothic law, then it turned into Las Siete Partidas, and then it turned into civil law, which is Napoleonic law. Those are the basic formations of Spanish legal system. But they had Las Siete Partidas there. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. One more thing, because it was this whole ordeal. I highly recommend you go to the 26 Martyrs Museum. It is near downtown Nagasaki, maybe not downtown, but like near the port, near the Nagasaki station. But it was so beautiful. There was this one text I want to say. So they have this like picture of this letter that this boy called Saint Thomas Kozaki wrote to his mother, as he was one of the 26 who were to be executed, because they started in Kyoto or Osaka, and then they humiliation march all the way to Nagasaki, where they'd be martyred on the cross. They'd be crucified, and then lances would be pierced through them as, sort of mockery to our Lord. But there was this young boy, 14, and this is what he wrote on his way to Nagasaki. So let me quote him. Quote, "With the help of the Lord's grace, I am writing these lines. The priests and the others who are journeying to be crucified in Nagasaki number in all 24. as testified in the sentence that is carried on a board ahead of us. You should not worry about me and my father, Mikhail or Michael. I hope to see you both very soon, there in paradise. Although you need the priests, if you are deeply sorry for your sins and have much devotion at the hour of your death, and if you remember and acknowledge the many blessings of Jesus Christ, then you will be saved. And bear in mind that everyone in the world has to come to an end. And so strive so that you will not lose the happiness of heaven. Whatever men may impose on you, try to have patience and show much charity for everyone. It is really necessary that my two brothers, Mankias and Philip, do not fall into the hands of the heathens. I commend you to our Lord, and I send you prayers for everybody we know. Remember to have great sorrow for your sins, for this alone is important. Although he sinned against God, Adam was saved by his sorrow and penance. Second day of the 12th moon in Mihara fortress, in the kingdom of Aki, January 19th, 1597. This young kid, who probably spent most of his life being taught by the missionaries, knows so deeply about the Catholic faith in such a way that even me, with all my access to the internet and knowledge, I can't even comprehend. Like, all he said was true. He didn't say a lie there. He represents the same faith I'm a part of. Because you'll hear the accusation as a Catholic that, like, oh, you worship idols and blah blah blah. But here's a boy facing certain death, or he doesn't gain any worldly thing from keeping to the faith. And he says, although you need the priests, if you have deep sorrow for your sins, much devotion at the hour of death, and remember the many blessings of our Lord Jesus Christ, you will be saved. And he goes on to say, just remember to have deep sorrow for your sins, for this alone is important. And he gives the analogy that although Adam sinned against God, Adam was saved by his sorrow and penance. That is the fundamental core. Like, you could boil down the entire faith to that deep sorrow for your sins. He acknowledges, yes, you need the priest. He acknowledges, yes, you need patience and charity. Yes, you need to do penance. But at the core of it is deep sorrow for your sins. And here's a boy halfway across the world, 400 years ago, equivocating that to people like me who don't even get it. And I have access. I have the internet. I have access to all this on my phone, on my fingertips. It's such a really great museum. You have to go. But then afterward, after I'd finished the museum, I went back to the hotel, rested. Then I walked north about a mile to get to the Peace Garden. I saw that and all of that. And then from the Peace Garden, I went to Urakami Cathedral. And then from Urakami Cathedral, I took some pictures. And then I walked all the way back. And then in the afternoon, I walked down to Dejima. And I took a couple pictures around Dejima. Dejima was like this artificial island off the coast that is now integrated into the mainland, but it was an artificial island off the coast where the Portuguese, and then when they were expelled, the Dutch stayed. And that was the only place in Japan during the Edo Bakufu, or the Edo period, where they could, foreigners could trade and be with Japan. So Japan was closed, but like there was a slight little opening. And it's only because the Dutch didn't proselytize, which to show you the Dutch don't exist. And then afterwards I went home and I went to bed. So that was the 29th. The 30th, I woke up, I went to Nagasaki Station, I took the Shinkansen to Isahaya, and from Isahaya, I got a ticket all the way down to Shimabara. And then from Shimabara, visited Shimabara Castle and the area around it, and then I took a bus. Buses are weird, so I'm gonna explain it. You enter from the one I took, you enter in the back, you pick up a ticket if you don't already have one, and you go on to the, you choose a spot. When you get to your arrival, you press a button, ding, it tells the driver to stop. Then you go to the front, and he'll have a little box. The top of the box is where you put your ticket and your change, or your bus fare. If you don't have that, there's a little slider, put in a bill, like 1,000 or something, hit the button, it'll give you 1,000 yen back. So I did that. I knew from Google Maps that my ticket was going to cost 980 yen, so basically 1,000. And the box only accepts coins, so you have to use coins. So my first time, I had enough coins to just 980, boom, done. That was an interesting experience. And also another thing is that on the bus they have a screen, not just the bus, but like any train that isn't, you don't pay for the ticket, because all the trains you hear about are like metros, but these are like trains, like they go to the backcountry trains. What you do is the similar system. You pick up a ticket and you pay the fare, get off. And I visited in Minami Shimabara, which is like southern Shimabara, Harajo. Harajo means Hara Castle. Hara Castle is important because it was where the Shimabara rebellion took place. It was a bunch of ruins, but that didn't stop me from exploring the place. One major takeaway from my trip to Japan was how peaceful it was And another thing to take away is how connected I felt because I was there in the spot where these Christians fought to the death for their faith. It was like I was connected to them. Again, people 400 years in the past, half a world away in space, and I was connected to them. It was truly something that was like, it brought me to emotions. I mean, emotion is probably the wrong word. Emocionado is what I want to say, but I don't know if there's a direct translation. It just got me to like feel connected, which is why I'm using connected. But I stayed there for a couple hours, and then I got back on the bus, and I got back to Shimabara Station. I bought a ticket. They had this cute little anime woman who was their train mascot, and then I took the train. Technically, it's Densha is train, so it was a Chisai Densha, which means small train. It was like a 1 or 2 car train, and I took it all the way back to Isahaya. From Isahaya, I got on the Shinkansen, and from the Shinkansen, I went to Nagasaki. Ended the night, and that was the 30th. Woke up the 31st, checked out of the hotel. All right, well, I took the Shinkansen from Nagasaki to Shintosu. Got off at Shintosu. Got another Shinkansen ticket to Okayama. Got to Okayama. I didn't realize this. Sometimes stations are stacked on top of each other. So you'll have the normal metro / eki, which is station, where all the normal trains, the regional trains go. And then you have a Shinkansen station on top of it, which is intra-national, which is in between the different regions of the nation. What they'll have is a 2-ticket system. 1 ticket to get into the station, and then another separate ticket to get to the Shinkansen station. But you can buy both tickets outside, like in the public sphere, before you enter the station. I should have known this, but I'll know it after a certain event in the future. I got off, I got lost. I didn't realize that your Shinkansen tickets are 2. Or for me it was 2, the ticket and the receipt. Enter and exit the Shinkansen part of the station. You need both. You put it in when you enter. It punches a little hole. You pick them up. You go to your destination. Put both in, and then you get the receipt back. You could probably do it with just the one. But if it's like a hybrid system where you have to enter the normal station and then the Shinkansen station, you need just the Shinkansen ticket to enter the station. But then you need the Shinkansen ticket and the receipt to enter the Shinkansen station and then exit the Shinkansen station, and just need the ticket to then leave the station. At the time, I just asked this lady, like, hey, how do I leave? I just want to leave. She told me, oh, this is how you do it. I was like, okay, cool. I left. I bought a ticket to go to, I bought a local ticket to go to Takamatsu, which is in Shikoku. I got on the train. I got on a local train, but that local train only took me to Kojima, which Kojima is like on the closest land point before you get to Shikoku, because you have to go on the Ohashi Bridge. But I didn't know that. I thought, oh, I made it to Takamatsu, or I made it to Shikoku, but there were a couple stops before Takamatsu. Oh, perfect. So I get off and I explore Kojima. I explored a park and I explored Kojima Jean streets. And I liked it because it was like a quaint little town. Like in the park, you saw children playing and people having a good time. I was like, yeah, this is nice. And Kojima's Jean Street is just that. It's like a street where they sell jeans, like a lot of jeans. Like anything to do with the denim, you go there. I even used the vending machine because, oh my gosh, there's so many vending machines in Japan that carry different things. I bought like a black cherry Mountain Dew. That was fine. Unique. Again, I visited the Jean Street. I took some pictures. I visited the park. I took some pictures. And then I went back to Kojima. I was like, all right, set foot in Shikoku. I don't have to think about that again. Go back to Okayama. From Okayama, I take the Shinkansen and I go to Tokyo for the night. Now in Tokyo, I get off at Tokyo Station. I leave the Shinkansen part of the station because Tokyo or Edo Station is literally the normal station, and then on inside and on top the Shinkansen, and then on the bottom a bunch of like malls and shops and stuff. There's actually like a Hololive official pop-up shop there that I went to way back in like the 25th. They didn't have what I was looking for. For the life of me, I just couldn't figure it out because again, I did 2 tickets, the ticket and the receipt to get out of the station. Perfect. But it gave me the ticket back. I was like, okay. So I went to various exits and I tried to do the ticket and a receipt to get out of Tokyo Station. Didn't work. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to pull a gaijin move. I'm just gonna buy a ticket to get on the Shinkansen to go to Ueno. That didn't work out. It's like, okay, fine. I'm gonna just hop the turnstiles and just leave. That didn't work either because there are too many people. Okay, let me go to Ueno. Maybe there's less people. Go to Ueno. Nope. It's packed. Try to leave. Nope, packed. Finally, met defeat. Go back to Tokyo. I took a train to Ueno and then took another train back. And then I finally talked to one of the guys like, how do I leave? And he's like, oh, you just need this ticket. I was like, really? Are you sure? I tried both. He's like, no, just this one. I was like, oh, okay, I'll try it out. Thank you so much. Arigatou gozaimasu. I left, and that's when I learned for sure. You're ever in one of those, again, it's a station within a station. You need the Shinkansen ticket to enter the normal station, but you need the Shinkansen ticket and the receipt if you bought a paper to get into the Shinkansen station. Lo and behold, I put in the one ticket, worked. I was angry, but oh well. I walked a little bit north, went to another station, bought a normal ticket, and I went to Ueno, got off, went to my hotel, which again was in like, Ueno station has like a shopping, arcade, nightlife district like right along it. So I stayed there. I gotta stop staying in these places, man. But that was the 31st. And then the 1st, I left Tokyo and I traveled all the way to Sendai. And when I got to Sendai, which is in the north, in Miyagi Prefecture, walked along the river. I saw a shrine. I went to a park that was like before the Sendai Castle. And then I went to another park that had a monument to Christian martyrs. And it was interesting because one of the plaques said something along the lines of there were 3 men there, a samurai, a priest, and a farmer. It really caught my attention because they were martyred in like 1624 or something. And it's just like 400 years ago, these men were evangelizing and proselytizing and living the faith in a foreign country that outlawed it. Like, wow. And then I went around, I walked some more. Again, the monuments is the same thing I felt at Nagasaki Museum in Nagasaki and in Hara Castle. And then I walked around more, and there were people lining up to go like ring the bells at a shrine that was near the park. That was interesting. I even saw a sakura tree that had sakura petals on it still. And then I walked more and I walked around more. Sentai is a really interesting place. One of the major cities in the north of the country, or technically the east of the country. I went to the hotel, I slept for the night, and the next day I explored Sendai Castle. And it was more like a shrine than a castle, but like it had a equestrian statue of Date Masamune, which is, if you don't know, you can play as Date Masamune's father in Total War Shogun 2. He was an important daimyo during the Sengoku period, especially during the Edo Bakufu. It was amazing. Yeah, there's these 2 guys from like Spain who asked me to take a picture of them in front of the gate, and so I did. Side note, I've met so many like Spanish people in Japan, like from Spain itself. I'll get to I won't get to it, but when I was leaving at Haneda, there's a Spanish family behind me, like full like they were talking Peninsulata. I was like, oh my gosh. So I visited the castle and I visited a local park near it. And then I went back to the hotel and I rested for a little bit. And then I'll tell you guys a story. The hotel was a capsule hotel, but also doubled as a public bath / sauna. So for men, only for men. So I went to the top floor. I found the public bath area. So what you do is there's a change room. You strip down, you put all the stuff in like a little basket. You go. Tip, you should they give you like 2 towels, a big towel and a thin towel. Take the thin towel with you. But you go in and there's standing showers to your left, a sauna room in front of you, and then a sauna, like hot tub bath in the corner, and then an outdoor area. I could only use the shower and the bucket system, which I'll explain right now. So I went to the bucket system, which I walked straight, I turned right, and then I turned right again. I walked back, and it was literally like an anime where Japanese people like sit down and use like buckets to like wash themselves, and they had like a hose there and they wash themselves, and like a shower handle where the shower head is on, and they use that to wash. All the other guys are there. They're not ashamed. They just get in, they shower, and so you see a gaijin like me is like, oh, I was trying to like get to where I was just like trying to keep to myself. I probably freaked them out more, but probably not as well. Side note, when I was in Takeo Onsen, the first time I was in Takeo Onsen, I went to the bathroom and they had a Japanese style bathroom, which is, if you don't know, it's literally just an empty stall with a oval hole in the ground where you squat and you pee. And I used that. So I did use a Japanese style bathroom. And now, side note, and Sendai, which again, my hotel room was in an arcade / shopping district of Sendai, which I gotta stop choosing these places. They had a public bath. I mean, my last capsule hotel also had a public bath as well. So, and the one in Ueno, but I was too scared to use it. But this one, I had to shower. I just had to shower. And then I used it. And I'm sitting on like a little stool, like one of those little baby stools. And I'm showering myself, I'm watering myself, I'm soaping myself, cleaning my hair and stuff. And it is just interesting because, you know, men are coming in and out. They're going into the sauna, out of the sauna, into the hot tub, out of the hot tub. They're showering themselves or they're leaving. This is where I saw a guy a couple seats next to me because I was in the corner. I was like, I'm not going to disturb anyone. Who brought with him the thin towel and he used that to like dry himself. Like, I should have done that too. But they literally give you a bucket as well. So you could like, I need to explain how Japanese like showers worked, at least the ones I used. It's a handle, then the shower head is on a handle, and then there's a sink underneath or like a faucet. You turn a knob, one knob to your left is temperature, knob to your right turns on the shower handle or turns on the faucet. So if you go up, the handle goes up. If you go down, the faucet goes down. Because they usually have the shower and the sink in basically in close proximity to each other. So that's generally how Japanese showers work. Except in this one, you push it, when you turn on the faucet, spray water, and that's where you put the bucket in, and it'll collect it, and then it'll stop. And then if you turn on the shower handle, it'll spray you with water, and then it'll stop. So I use the bucket to like wash my hands, because I would get them soap, wash my body, clean them off. And then afterwards, I would just dump it, get new water, and then wash myself with it. A really interesting experience. I don't hate the fact that I use the public bath with other men, and again, you could see their junks and stuff. I don't hate it. I would do it again. I don't know how I would do it again, but I would do it again. It was not that bad because, at least for me, I was in the same room as sauna, so I was just sweating. I was literally just so warm because Sendai is in the north, so it's really cold, but I was just warm. So that was the second, and then the next day I left and I went to Sendai Station. I took the Shinkansen. I took that all the way to Shin Hakodate Hokuto. This is where I saw snow, Hokkaido snow, and Hokkaido's just beautiful. I went on a local train, got lost, went the wrong way. I wanted to go to Hakodate, but I went the opposite direction. Ended up visiting this, I wouldn't say quaint town, but it's more like a ski town of Onuma. I got off, I explored a little bit, I got some konbini food, got back on the train. I came back and it was one of those things where I bought the ticket at a ticket kiosk. You could buy most of your tickets on a ticket kiosk, at least the major cities. I never had to interact with someone again, which is good for me. But this time I had to do like the bus, take a ticket, and then pay for the fare, which I did, but I put in the ticket as well. And I didn't realize it, but we were on the lower level and there was like a transition gate that I could have gone through. I didn't, because I didn't have a ticket. So I went to the upper level where it transfers you to the Shinkansen, but I couldn't get out. So I asked this poor security guard in my broken Japanese and English. I paid for my ticket. I came from Monuma. I paid for my ticket. I just want to exit. I couldn't get anywhere. I literally could not speak to him because he didn't even speak English, or I guess apart from a few words. Just like I couldn't speak Japanese apart from a few words. And then this other station guy came up to me and was like, no. Eventually, he told him, no, this guy already paid. He's fine. And he just lent her. I was like, okay. And I said, go in as I, which is, I'm really sorry. Like, I paid for the ticket. I don't mind paying again, but I already paid for it. I just want to leave. And so from there, I kind of was just defeated. I was just like, yeah, if I'm ever coming back to Japan, I need to either speak the language or have someone who speaks it for me. Because there's just so many things that if you mess up and you don't know how to articulate it, you're toast. I was able to get through, buy my Shinkansen ticket to go to Shin Aomori, which is, it's on Honshu, but it's in that little bay because Japan on the top of Honshu has like these little pincers that kind of keep in this bay, and then Aomori is the biggest city on there. I visit Aomori and it is snowing and it is beautiful. And I only got to visit the parks near it, and one of them shows like the left pincer, the right pincer, and then in the distance Hokkaido, which is what I wanted to see, and it was just beautiful. I then go back to the Shinkansen station, or the normal station, take the train to the Shinkansen station, get on the Shinkansen station, buy a ticket for later, and that's when I got an ekiben. Now, an ekiben is a combination of words. Eki, station, ben, bento, food or lunchbox. So ekiben is literally station lunch or station food, which is very common. You'll see people when they go on the Shinkansen, because the Shinkansen trip can be 30 minutes or 4 hours, depending on how far you go. Most of my money went to the Shinkansen tickets. Every single one of them, except for a couple, were above 10,000 yen. 10,000 yen is about $63. 20,000 yen is about $126. So anywhere between $60 and $130 is what you'll spend on a Shinkansen ticket. That was the most I ever spent. I never spent more than 30,000 or 20,000 yen on a ticket. But then again, my distances were just far enough to where it justified it. So I never spent more than like $130 on a ticket. or a hotel for that matter. So if you're going to do what I do, bring a lot of money for that, or buy them in advance, or buy the Japanese rail pass. But yeah, I visited Aomori, went back, got into the Shinkansen station, bought an Ekiben, and then I went back to Sendai. Went home, slept, and then the next morning, so that was the 3rd, so the 4th, so now I'm in the final 2 days. The morning of the 4th, I leave the hotel, check out, and I go to, from Sendai station, I go to Ueno station. But the story here is that, one, it was crowded. It was crowded. The 4th is like a Monday. It was a Sunday. So I left at peak Sunday hours. So I bought a ticket for one train. Completely missed it because it was just so booked. I didn't even want to get on. So I waited about an hour to get on another train. And this was like a fresh train with no passengers on it before. And I got on and I got in line, because you'll definitely have to queue for things in line, or get in line for things in Japan. So I got in line, I got in the queue, and then I got on. And yes, I mean, I was in the first car, which is slightly less seats, but I knew that I was going to stand up anyway. So I just went to the side and I stood up. I was right. They didn't have space. Although you can buy tickets for a reservation, you can also stand, because the Shinkansen, but essentially is the car with all the seats, and then 2 areas where you can exit and enter, and they may have bathrooms, they may not. It depends on the Shinkansen car, but generally they'll have 2 like areas where you get on, get in, and then you could get into the seat car. I was in one of those areas and I just stood. And Sendai to Ueno was like 2 hours or 3 hours or something like that. It was like about 2 hours, so it wasn't that bad. But I knew that it was going to be packed. Now, 2 stories from that. In those 2 hours or hour and a half that I was standing, more and more people got on, so I got more and more pushed back. At one point, there was this family with this little Japanese girl, this older Japanese grandma, and then the parents. And at one point, the Japanese girl was looking at me because I'm like the only gaijin that she could see right now. So I hit her with the because in my mind I'm thinking, girl, no one's gonna believe you. No one's gonna believe a gaijin went. I think I got caught, but I think I was slick enough about it to where the child told the parent, and then they were looking at me and they're like, I don't see it. I'm just sitting there like, just gaijin, I don't know what you're talking about. So I want to think that I traumatized the little Japanese ona no ko, where ona means woman, ko means child, no is the connecting word, so a female child. I shouldn't say woman, I should say female, a female child. And then the other story that I will relate here that might make me seem like a creep. At some point, as we were getting packed, there was this girl in front of me who was a head shorter than me and who was dressed kind of modestly. Japanese fashion is weird. You either have modest people, salarymen, suits, they fit their station in life. You know, if they're in running gear, or if they're elderly, they'll wear normal attire, or they'll be like dressed up. Or for women, again, they'll be modest dresses, jackets, face masks. Again, for the most part. This girl was like in a jacket and pants, I think jeans, and boots. A lot of them wear boots. And as they were getting closer and closer back, they pushed me farther and farther back until I was literally in the door frame. Like the actual, like if you look at any door, it's in a frame. Same thing with the train. It has a door and a frame is for the door. They just pushed me back to the door, essentially. Me and this woman were like this, and it felt nice because I'm like a head taller than her. Even with her boots on, I'm a head taller than her. So often I would go in and I would sniff her hair because it smelled nice. It wasn't strong, but it smelled pleasant. And that's when it hit me like one of the many benefits of having like a partner in life is that for me, I could feel like I'm protecting her because I kind of am. I'm like towering over her. But on the other hand, it feels nice because she smells nice, she looks nice, and she is like leaning back against me. Well, she wasn't, but she's like near me, and my presence and her presence kind of complemented each other. And it was just like, that's why partners are important. That's a benefit of having a partner. It just felt nice. It just really felt nice. I didn't talk to her or anything. I kind of just imagined these scenarios in my head. But then she got off, and then I got off, and now I was in Tokyo. So from Ueno station, I get off, and I walk from Ueno Park. Yeah, because I explored Ueno, because I got off at Ueno Park, and I was like, oh man, I took the wrong exit. And I walked from Ueno all the way to Minato. So from Ueno station all the way to Mita station, which is about 2 hours. That was brutal, chief. You can definitely walk across Japan. You don't need to take public transportation. It would be well advised if you didn't do that, but you can definitely do it. I passed by, and this is weird, I passed by the statue of Mark Antony, or Marcus Antonius, dressed up as someone else, as where Tonius or something. And I'm thinking, what? Because it just catches your eye. You see a Roman statue, and you're like, what? And then the plaque was faded, so, but it said Mark Antony as where Tonius, or where Entius or something like that. Oh, okay. Okay. Sure. Anyway, I make it to Mita station, and I get to my hotel, and I just crash. They also provided me with a television that had access to a bunch of Japanese shows and 2 Japanese corn, which is like, wow. Don't get me wrong, all my other hotels had like TVs as well. I just never checked them. But this one, my trip was basically over in my mind. I was like, okay, why not? And I saw it, I was like, wow, they really have that here. It's like, it's not like taboo. I was like, okay. But yeah, that was the 4th. Then I went to sleep. I woke up the 5th, and I explored some places again. I revisited Edel Castle and the northern part of it. So all of the Edel Park complex I visited. I visited this place called the Yasukuni Shrine, Yasukuni Jin, which was really interesting because this is this big shrine complex there. And, you know, I just paid some simple respects. I did what the locals did. Not to the extent of worship. It's just more like, I just want to see it, and I have to do these movements to, you know, respect the culture and stuff. And then from there, I walked to Tokyo Dome City, and that was so weird because the Tokyo Giants play there, and it's literally a dome stadium and an amusement park right next to it. So it's like an attraction for anything. And I was like, wow. I got back to my hotel. I took the train back to the hotel, and I looked it up, and that's when I realized I never stepped foot on Shikoku. I stepped foot on the closest point between Honshu and Shikoku, but I never stepped foot on Shikoku. I was like, oh. Which would have been a good use of my time that day to go to Okayama, go to Shikoku, and go back to Okayama and then back to Tokyo. So instead, I decided the next day, the 6th, which is when my flight was leaving, to go from Tokyo to Okayama, from Okayama to Takamatsu, from Takamatsu back to Okayama, and then from Okayama back to Tokyo. So I made the preparations, and then in the afternoon, I went to go visit, drumroll please, Cover Corp Tower. I visited the place where the Hololive Productions office is in Tokyo, which is in Minato-to or Minato-ku. Yay! And right across from the Hololive office is Bandai Namco. I kid you not. The people who make Dark Souls are across the people who make VTubers. And it's like, or international VTubers. I didn't get to meet any. I didn't see any Celtic origin women there. Or if I did, I missed them. Yeah, and then I went back to the hotel. And then the 6th, brutal, chief. I get up in the morning, I check out, I go to a nearby station, I go to Shinagawa station, I get off, I buy my Shinkansen tickets from Shinagawa, which is just south of Tokyo, to Okayama. I get off at Okayama. Oh, and I passed Fuji-san a couple times, but I never actually got to see Fuji-san or Mount Fuji except from afar. I do have pictures, but they're from afar. But yeah, I make it all the way to Okayama. From Okayama, I go to I take the local limited express line to Takamatsu. As we get to Kojima, we stay there for a long time, for 20 minutes. Why? I wouldn't know until after, but we stay there for a little bit. And then we leave. We cross the bridge, the Seto Ohashi Bridge, or the Ohashi Bridge. And then afterwards, we make it to Sakaide. And then after Sakaide, we slowly roll all the way to Takamatsu. From Sakaide to Takamatsu, it was 15 minutes. It took us an hour. Why? I get to Takamatsu. All trains have been delayed because there was an earthquake when I was in Kojima. And in Japan, at the very least, they halt almost everything just to minimize casualties. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the worst possible moment ever. I literally just, because I'm leaving at 9 p.m. But mind you, it takes 3 hours to get from Okayama to Tokyo. I might be running out of time. In my mind, I'm thinking. Proof in point, I almost did. Thankfully, thank the Lord, I didn't. And I was literally having a breakdown, an existential crisis there on my route to Takamatsu. I get off at Takamatsu. I take pictures of the sea. I take pictures of the local castle, but you have to pay to enter. And I'm not doing that right now. I just need to leave. I'm thinking, I just need to leave this place. I leave. So I'm in Takamatsu for an hour or something. I get on the first train out of there. But thankfully, everything resumed back to normal. So we get from Takamatsu to Okayama in 40 minutes or something. I get off. I get on a. I get on to the Shinkansen. The Shinkansens were delayed an hour, so it would literally be the Shinkansen from Mario arrives, everyone gets on. 15 minutes later, another Shinkansen comes in that was 45 minutes ago, gets on. The other Shinkansen that came in 15 minutes after that one gets on, and then it was mine. So I got some snacks, and got on my Shinkansen. Pardon my French. We hauled ass all the way to, well, for me, Shinagawa. I left Okayama at like 3 or something. I got to Shinagawa at like 6:30. And I took the train. I got off the station. I got off the Shinkansen. I went to the local connecting station or connecting line to Haneda. And I took the train there. And I got to the place at like 7:30. I got to the airport at 7:30. I exchanged my money. They gave me $160 and some yen over. I was like, what am I going to do with this yen? So I just threw it away. And then I get my ticket. I go through baggage security, and I have about 40 minutes, maybe like 50 minutes before my flight. So I just speed walk my way to my flight. I get on. I wait until everyone gets on. I try to get on. There's problems with my passport or my ticket. Ask me a couple questions. Finally get on, and then I had these earplugs for my ears, which I need to invest in like a headset or something for these long trips. But I get on, and we leave Japan, or I leave Japan. Yay. And that was my Japan trip itinerary. Then I land in Honolulu the next morning, although it's still the 6th. I spent some time in Honolulu. I visited the Pearl Harbor Museum, but they don't allow pictures or they don't allow stuff in, so I just kind of went outside. And then I went to a local lagoon or local park. I went back to the airport, and I waited, and then I got on my night flight to Los Angeles. Arrived in Los Angeles in the morning, walked to my other flight, which was at 11 in the morning on the 7th. I got on my flight from Los Angeles to Seattle, and then from Seattle, I went to my place of origin. So hopefully all these pictures I put up showcase that timeline. That was my journey, my itinerary in a nutshell. So thank you so much. All right. Couple things. I have a couple of quick items to show before I talk about something else. This is what I got for the 26. The Hiroshima atomic bomb victims museum. This is a pamphlet they gave me, or the pamphlet was there. That's cool. And then the 26 martyrs in English, because they have like 3 different languages there. And then this was a ticket for visiting the Imperial Palace in Edo in Tokyo that I didn't end up realizing. And this was telling me about the different hotel room accommodations. All of them were helpful, and they could speak enough English to kind of get the point across. So that was that. But now let's move on to my thoughts, my unfiltered thoughts on what I thought about Japan. The main one was it was peaceful, it was serene, it was quiet. Even in the noise of it all, it was just, I didn't have any worries that really shook me to my core, except for my last day and a couple other times. But that was just misunderstandings or inconveniences. But other than that, for the majority of my trip, I was kind of at one with the area. Maybe not at one, but I was just, I didn't have any worries. And that could be because I've never been to there and I didn't really have worries. But it was just peaceful and serene. 2, I noticed that a lot of people fit into like certain roles. For example, if you're a salaryman, you're a salaryman. If you are a salary woman, you're a salary woman. Elderly, old, school girl, school boy, konbini worker, restaurant worker, whatever. Most people move from like point A to point B, and I think that statement is mostly true in the cities. Out in the suburbs, I'm not too certain. All right, now in the suburbs. Out in the country, I'm not too certain. But for the most part, people are there to shop, to work, to party, to play, to do something, and they usually keep to themselves. So to me, it's like from going from point A to point B, which I gotta say was awesome because that means I didn't have to talk to people. Because here in America, I'm asking like, do I say hi to this person? Do I not say hi to a person? Sometimes they say hi to me and I'm like, oh, hello, good day to you, sir. Or sometimes they don't. I'm like, okay, awkward. In Japan, I could just ignore people. But my role there was gaijin. They would just look at me and assume I didn't speak Japanese. So the most common motif would happen was a service worker or someone I had to talk to would look at me. I would reply or I would ask something in Japanese. They would then talk to me as if I understood Japanese. After they spoke to me, I'm trying to think what they said to me, and they see me thinking and they're like, okay, he doesn't know all that Japanese, and they speak to me in English. It means that they assume that I'm bad at Japanese, and they're like, okay. And it's like, yes, true, but like I want to practice as well. I should more so look at it as I got to try, they got to try, and we both improved. So people would assume that I just was bad at Japanese. And when I told them, it was funny because the people I told them would say, no, your Japanese is pretty good, but pretty good for a foreigner, for a gaijin like myself, which again, I'm fine with being a gaijin. I don't view myself living in Japan for more than a year, maybe a couple months at a time, sure, but for more than a year, no, just not me. At least not now. Again, I try to talk in Japanese, but can't, so they speak English, or at least they use gestures, or they try to speak a few words that they know in English. Some of them do speak English really well, like the people I met in Kyoto and the surveyors in Osaka. Some train attendants, especially in the major cities, know English enough. Some don't. So it really depends. I would say learn some Japanese. Learn at least enough to get by, like basic questions and responses and stuff like that. Don't go into the nitty gritty and stuff, just so that you can get by. Because let's say you go to the kombini. They'll ask you, do you want your food hot or to warm it up? You can say yes or no. 2, they'll ask you if you want a bag. You can say yes or no. And 3, they'll ask you they'll ask you if you want to pay, how you're going to pay. And then for most of them, there's a screen. Like just, so here's the cash register. There's the person. There's a screen right to your left. You can pay by card, IC card, credit card, cash, whatever. And then you just pay. Afterwards, they give you your stuff and you're on your way. But yeah, you can get through most kombini interactions by saying hi or iya, which is yes or no. Yeah, what you'll notice is that some of them can speak English. Others just point to they'll have signs on the counter that say, do you want this, do you want that? They are kind to you if you are courteous. My first couple times on the train, they kind of just got out of my way. It was that thing where it's like if you sat next to me, as soon as another spot opened, they leave. But as I sort of fit into my role and try to just be courteous by staying in my lane, they got used to it. So I got sit next to more times than I was alone with an empty seat if it was crowded or something. The way I rationalized it was, again, my role here is gaijin. They're the daily lives. I'm the tourist. They're the locals. So if there was an empty seat on a train, I wouldn't take it. I just stand. And most of my stops weren't that long anyway. It's only after a lot of people have left that I would then go to a seat and just sit down in a corner. A major thing I noticed is that Japan is not that different from the US. Sure, they have different mindset and different experiences and different economy and different culture. Yep. No doubt about it. Like, a difference is they have vending machines at almost every corner, and they have shrines / cemeteries, but they have a bunch of shrines, small ones, big ones, a bunch of shrines everywhere, like everywhere. They don't have public restrooms, and they don't have public trash, unless you're at a station or a park or somewhere where a lot of people gather. But for the most part, it was pretty similar. America has cars, they have cars. Japan is a big place. America is a really big place. Japan has public transportation. America has public transportation. Not all of it, but some of it. Again, I went to the countryside a couple times, and they had some transportation, but it was mostly dominated by car travel. I mean, I'm thinking about going to Hokkaido and Onuma. You could get on a train there, but you could also drive there. The thing I think of is wherever there's people, and they will make cities. So does Japan have people? Yes. Does America have people? Yes. Does Japan have cities? Yes. Do Americans have cities? Yes. Japanese people live in Japanese cities? Yes. Do American people live in American cities? Yes. There's some level of equivalency between cities across the globe. I could go to Rio, Cairo, London, Moscow, Lagos, Manila, Beijing, and Tokyo, and they all have some level of resemblance because they're cities. They're just cities, and human beings are different, but they're also not different. They're similar as well. And so those similarities carry over. They have lots of cars. They have lots of car parks. It's just that in our car parks, they're like 20. In theirs, it's like 8 to 12. But they have lots of car parks. The difference is you park, and then there's like a metal bar underneath that raises up so you can't leave until you pay. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of strange people, a lot of strange encounters. I was in Sendai. Some guy was yelling on his bike. I saw a homeless person in Sendai as well. The people in Japan are fashionistas. Some aren't. In Tokyo, they're much more like a mass blob with a bunch of foreigners. But excluding the foreigners, they're just like a mass blob. But they also like flaunt their wealth sometimes. Sometimes they don't. In Osaka, they have a lot more personality. They're a lot more fashionable. But again, it's just people. Like if you take yourself out of it and you just look at people, they're just people. Young, old, tall, short, man, woman, foreigner, non-foreigner, employed, unemployed, doing weird things. It just felt like I was in another city in America. There are differences, obviously, but yeah. I even saw trash on streets. I picked up some trash on the street of Kyoto and put it back. They'll leave the trash on the piles. Sometimes they'll have a specific bin to put your trash in. The garbage people will collect it, but I literally saw trash on streets. Clean streets? No. Clean looking streets. Or streets that are devoid of a lot of trash or a lot of homeless people or addicts like we have here in the States. Yeah, sure. I never saw 3 people shooting up crack, meth, or fentanyl like I did in San Francisco, but like it's not like I'm gonna eat off the floor in Tokyo than I would in New York. Different, yes, but still similar, especially in the metro areas. And again, I would say that Japanese metro areas are a lot like New York or San Francisco, or like a mix of New York, San Francisco, Chicago, like all the major American cities put together. Let's take Tokyo, for example. Tokyo grew out before it grew up, and their rail network is extensive like New York's is. I did a lot of walking in Japan, and I did a lot of walking in New York, but I could take the train in Japan and I could take the train in New York, and they got me to where I needed to go. I could cross the boroughs in 2 hours. I could cross Tokyo in 2 hours. It's a lot of similarities. Yeah, there were lots of shrines and lots of vending machines, and the vending machines came with hot stuff, cold stuff, weird stuff, ocha stuff, coffee, like iced coffee is really popular there. But there's also hot coffee, so a lot of things. And a lot of shrines, as I mentioned. It's like a perfect place. Japan is a perfect place for introverts, not foreigners, for introverts. As I mentioned, I went most of my time without speaking a whole lot to people. I talked to people here and there, sure, but it wasn't like I needed to talk. It's not like some rando came out to me and talked to me. It also could be because I'm a male and, I was just ignored for being a male foreigner. But regardless, I could thrive in Japan if I wanted to. Granted, I don't think I would, just because I feel like I'd be stuck in place. I like suffering a little bit, so I'm gonna force myself to live in America until I can't. Yeah, I got by with very little talking. I did speak in Japanese, but when I had to speak in English, it was not a long conversation. We didn't talk about lives or our lives or anything. It was just, I need help. Thank you for helping me. Bye-bye. Rooms, for the most part, if I stayed in capsule hotels as a solo traveler, cheap. 20 to 50 bucks per night. It was more like 30 bucks per night. So I could stay in a capsule hotel, and they're close enough to most stations or most areas with public transportation that you could, they're cute. I'll show you a few pictures of capsule hotels because some of them are cute. Or maybe not cute, but it is such a revolutionary concept to me that I wish capsule hotels were a real thing here in America. That's one thing that Japan does that America doesn't. Just really effective. Here's where you sleep. That's it. Here's your shower. That's it. And then go. Transportation was my biggest expense. I've probably spent like 60% of my funds. $2,300. 60% of that went to the Shinkansen. It is so goated. If you are traveling a lot through Japan, get the rail pass and make sure you go and visit the major cities, the major sites, just everything. If you're going to travel Japan like I did, just go up and down, left and right, get the rail pass because it really does bite into your money. The konbinis were goated as It's like an American convenience store. They had a food section, they had a chip section, snacks, even had desserts, drinks, and they had everything. But 7-Eleven will have a place in my heart because it has calorie mates. I'll talk about them a little bit later, but apart from that, they even have like magazines that show like not safe for work stuff as well. So it literally is just like an American convenience store, but like better. And they have like fresh food and stuff, or like kombini food. Famichiki, goated. Oily, but goated. Yeah, and they have 3 chains there. They have Family Mart, 7-Eleven, our version of 7-Eleven, but it's like 7 and I Holdings. They are so goated. Kombinis, and they're open 24/7. So it's perfect. Perfect. I even saw one 7-Eleven have Smirnoff Ice. If you don't know, I love vodka. I love Smirnoff Ices. I really love Smirnoff Ices. They're like candy with alcohol. But I could just toss them back every. But yeah, Kombinis, great. Especially if you don't have a lot of money to spend on, or your money's being spent on Shinkansen tickets and hotel rooms. I went during a rush period. I literally got they when the Shinkansen lets you know from the 26th to the 4th, the 26th of December to the 4th of January. Most non-reserved cars on the Shinkansen become reserved because just a high flux of people on certain lines. So just to give you a picture, a Shinkansen is a bullet train. They usually come in 8, 10, 12, 16, or 20 cars sizes. They have different names, and those names tell you from where to where it goes. So for example, Nozomi is I believe the fastest one. It goes from Tokyo to Hakata, like the end of Honshu. That skips the most stops, and it has 16 cars. 4 of those are non-reserved, and they're the first 4, which means you could buy the ticket but not the seat and go, and it's first come first serve. And the rest of the cars, you have to buy a ticket for the reserve seat, and if it's a green car and it'll have like a green leaf, like a 4-leaf clover type symbol, you have to have another ticket to show you, and that's like luxury. That's like first class or something. Then you have the Sakura line, which goes from Shin Osaka to Kagoshima-chu. So it goes from the Kansai region all the way down to Kyushu. That one has 8 cars, and again, the first 3 are non-reserved, and the last 5 are reserved, with 1 green car. Then you'll have something like the Hikari, which goes from Okayama to Tokyo. Or you'll have the Hayabusa, which goes from Tokyo to Shin Hakodate Hokuto, and that's the Tohoku Shinkansen. And that is like, it's 10 cars and then another 8 cars or 6 cars or something like that. So it's like 16 cars, but it's one Shinkansen and then the Kith and another Shinkansen. It's really weird. Or really cool, I should say. That was the one that I got stuck on, that I was like squeezed into a sardine. I went during rush hour season, so most of those non-reserved were reserved. And the ones that weren't, like the Hikari, Sakura, and Hayabusa, they got packed really quick. But even though I went during rush hour season, it didn't get too crowded except Sunday, the 4th, when I went from Sendai to Tokyo at noon. But apart from that, I was always able to find a seat or pay a little extra to get a reserved seat. But for the most part, I would say like 60% of my journey was non-reserved, and then 40% was reserved, which is fine. That's fine. My money was able to stretch a long time. I remember looking at like expensive restaurants, 1,500 yen, 2,000 yen, which $20. And this is for like food, like filling food at a lot of restaurants. It's like $20. In fact, I had a problem with my money. I forget if I mentioned this or not, but like I got too much money in too high bills that I couldn't really use it effectively. I had to like keep spending on the Shinkansen to get enough lesser bills to then pay for my food. If I had planned it better and I planned it more strategically and I got a Suica card or something, or IC card, I could eat anywhere. It was just 2,300 over 2 weeks could last. 2,300 could last me a month, realistically. It's just that I spent so much time traveling that the Shinkansen really ate into those. One of the nice things about Japan is that the most impressionable thing was that it was peaceful. But it really wasn't too different. It was sort of like that one James Franco movie where he says, when he visited, it's called The Interview, but he visits North Korea, and he's like, when he first lands there, he's like, same, but different. It literally felt like that. So again, I went in there thinking I was going to be a foreigner, and I came out positive because I was a foreigner. Like, it was not a bad experience, and it wasn't too different. It was less like America where it's just out in the open, but it was more, I guess it was more my speed than anything else. So that was my impression of Japan. it is a it's just a country like anyone else. It has its problems, it has its ups and its downs, but for the most part, it was a novel experience and it was peaceful. And I think I really am drawn to that peaceful fact because so much of my life is just turbulent, but that was peaceful and I didn't have to worry too much. The few times I had to worry had to do with my lack of preparedness when it came to the language and the interaction. But other than that, it's generally a positive experience. Granted, I will say it does get lonely, especially if you're not out every single night like I was. And if you took things my speed, like I visited a lot of gaijin non-friendly, but like a lot of the places I visited, there wasn't a lot of gaijins because it was steeped in history, and history is what really gets me going. But even then, I still had a good time because I felt the connection to previous ancestors. That was my general impression of Japan and some things that stood out to me. So just to recap, it was peaceful and it's a lot like America in some aspects, not in all, but in some aspects. Same, but different. So what did I like and what I dislike? If someone asks me, what did you like? I'll say, I liked 5 things. 1, bidets. Bidets are just goated. I'm going to get a bidet when I can. 2, calorie mate and the kombini in general. Calorie mate specifically and kombini in general. Calorie mates are like, if you play Metal Gear Solid, either 3 or Delta, both Snake Eater, there's the item called calorie mate, which is like a chocolate protein bar, but it's not like a protein bar with a lot of stuff. It's just literally like a chocolate bar or strawberry bar or blueberry bar, chocolate chip bar, whatever type of bar. They have like 5 different flavors. For me, it is the epitome of like quick, easy, cheap travel food, and they are so delicious. For me, they're not flavorful, not even by a long shot. They're really powdery when you chew on them a lot, but boy do they fill you up. Or like I could eat one. They come in a small 2 bars or a bigger 2 bars per package, but they give you 2 packages. But that is like, if you're in a pinch and you're on the run and you don't have time to think, calorie mates are so goated. Thank you Kojima. Thank you for that. Okay, 3, transportation in general, and again, Shinkansen is specific. Bro, Shinkansens are another experience. I never felt like I was traveling fast enough. I always felt like I was just on a fast train. But my gosh, going from Hiroshima to Nagasaki in like 6 hours. Well, I mean, because I messed up, but like going in Hiroshima to Nagasaki in 4 hours. Awesome. Going from Sendai to Hokkaido in like 2 hours. They're kilometers apart. To drive from Tokyo to Kyoto is like hundreds of kilometers. But instead of flying, which is a annoyance, driving, which you can do it, I've done it, but like I'd rather not. Going from Hiroshima to Nagasaki in like 4 hours, it's mind-boggling. There's something we can learn from Japan. America can learn from Japan. That a Shinkansen, the best way you could describe it is like an airplane, a train that's an airplane. For the most part, it's quite literally getting you from A to B the fastest way possible, but without any of the waitresses or hostesses or safety or all that. It's a train that feels like a lot like an airplane because you go from one station to another like that. So Shinkansen's goated. 4th thing I like about Japan, Kyoto. I had a wonderful time there. The Imperial Palace, the river, the atmosphere. It felt like a small town, even though it was a city, but it felt like a small town. And the people there were amazing. Again, the night I spent there was the best night of my life. One of the best nights of my life. 5, how peaceful it was and how I could just live there. Like I could envision myself living there. It's like introvert heaven. You don't have to talk to people if you don't want to. Like I know I sound asocial or antisocial or whatever, but like I could literally just live there and not have to do too much talking. Or basically I can go at my own pace. So the only obstacle I have is myself and well, the language and the culture and all that stuff. But like that I can navigate. Because in a city, again, I've for most of my life, so I know how to navigate them. Cities for the most part are the same across whatever continent or country you're in. In Japan, everyone keeps to themselves because, again, they play their roles. They go from point A to point B. And then when they do come up to you, like the surveyors in Osaka, they're just courteous. And if I'm courteous, then they're courteous too. They're very helpful, especially to a foreigner like me. I wonder if it's because I try to speak to them in their language and fail. They're like, well, he tried. At the very least, he tried. So that's what I liked. What did I not like about Japan? One, this is going to sound so out of touch, but I was too rich. Meaning they gave me, when I exchanged my money, the 2,300 at Narita airport, they gave me 350,000 yen. They gave me 30 $10,000 bills, which is called man. And that's equivalent to our, like, American $100 bills. And they gave me one $5,000 bills, which is equivalent to our like $50 bills, and then 4 or 5 $1,000 bills called sen, which is our like $20 bills, 106 yen. So hyaku, which is like a quarter, a go, and a yen, which is like our nickel and penny. My motto is man, $10,000 bad. Gosen, which is $5,000, fine, decent, but use it accordingly. And then sen, good. Sen, like $20. If I, like most things here, you could pay with the 20 and then get the change back. And those are the bills. And then anything below sen, so hyaku or hundreds, and the Jews, which are the 10 denominations. Coins are useful, except for go and en, or the nickel and penny for us. Those things are worthless. Do not, if you can, use your single and $5 coins as much as possible, because you'll accrue them and they are worthless. So what you'll do is, Japanese people usually include tax, but if you get a bag, they'll add another like 5 yen to your total. So you could use it for that. Avoid man as much as possible, but have man as reserve, which are the 10,000 bills. So have like maybe 10 man, 100,000 yen as like a side, like on your persons, so you could pay for things that maybe you don't see, like hotel rooms, Shinkansen tickets, whatever. Avoid having all your eggs in the man basket, or that resulted for me being too rich, having too much money, not properly dispersed. Another thing I didn't like was that cash is more inconvenient in the major metropolitan areas, i.e. cities, which is fine if I'm not going to spend my time in a city. But since I spend the majority of my time in a city anyway, it's inconvenient. You can still get through. I got through it. You can still buy paper tickets. You can still buy paper receipts. You can still use cash for a lot of things. But it's more convenient if you had an IC card, a Suica or ICOCA, ICOCA, or whatever it is. It's still more convenient if you had an IC card on you, or on your phone as well, which I hate, because it's like the stereotype of cash being king in Japan is technically true, but you only really get to feel it in places like Shimabara or Hokkaido, places like that, or Onuma, places like that. You really get to feel cash is king. Places like Tokyo or Kyoto or Sendai or Hiroshima or Nagasaki or Osaka, an IC card would be your best friend. I don't personally like that, but that's why it's a dislike. And yeah, I touched upon the IC cards are convenient. Apart from that, and apart from the language barrier, that's about all I disliked in Japan. It had to do with money, because again, I had a lot of man, and I had a lot of en and goen, is 1 and 5 cents, which is why a lot of my purchases were Shinkansen tickets, because I'd pay like Niman, which is 20,000 yen for the Shinkansen ticket, and then they give me back some sen and some coins. But yeah, everything else for the most part is doable. Like, an interesting thing I noticed, and this isn't either like or dislike, Japan has a lot of like signs and stuff, and I noticed like a majority, like 75% of signs and announcements and anything to do with visually a Japanese and then another language. For the most part, it's English, but I've seen Japanese, English, Chinese, Korean, I've even seen German and Russian and Thai. So like, to me, it's weird, because in America it's English, and then if it's a place frequented by like tourists and stuff, Spanish or Chinese or whatever it is. But in Japan, it's almost, I don't want to say ubiquitous, but it's between 50 and 75% of all the signs you see have some other language there as well. Especially if it like helps with like are related to transportation or getting from one place to another, or a map or something, it'll be there. Again, I'm just gonna quickly wrap up and say, again, the sign thing, where it's like a majority of the signs I see have another language other than Japanese. Now most don't, but a lot do. That's strange to me because it's like, as an American, I only know a lot of English signs. There are other signs as well and other things, but that's more for like places with a lot of tourists. Even in the back country, there's still like English signs or English words there. And it's like, really? But in the country, it's like less. It's like 10% or 5%. Another thing I want to mention before is when I was in Shinjuku, I saw some Sanseto demonstrators there. I took a couple pictures of them, and they were spewing their spiel, and I thought it was interesting. I wanted to go and be like hi there and troll them as well, but I didn't want to be branded on national television as like as a admirer of the Austrian painter or something. So yeah, but it just goes to show that Japan is just like any other place in the world, different, but same, but different. That is my impression and my likes and dislikes. One more thing I wanted to say was, although I didn't buy anything in Japan, I did get something that I was able to bring with me, and that is this. It is a travel case for a toothbrush and toothpaste, and this thing has been with me since the beginning, so since the 24th. And I thought it was really cool because they give you this toothbrush, which, if you notice, the neck is really thin. It's a really thin toothbrush, as opposed to my current one, which is just a thicker version of this. And it comes with a water protection case, so you could just take it off and yeah. So this has been with me. This has been very useful. Not only that, they give you this like weird mint flavored toothpaste. As you can see, it says natural mint. Sorry. 1450 parts per millimeter. And all the Japanese on the back of it. So, this is good toothpaste. 10 out of 10 would. Sorry. 10 out of 10 would recommend you having some Japanese toothpaste. And then here is the case that it comes in. So it even has like a little knob so you could put your toothpaste in like this. Really neat, and I'm glad I was able to take it with me. Bring it back here to America. What are my final thoughts about the entire trip? I'm glad I took it. I'm glad I took it when I took it. I'm glad I jumped into the water because I met so many. I felt like it was a good experience overall. At times it was kind of challenging because being in a foreign country by yourself for a couple weeks without any connection to the outside world apart from your apartment. I was on airplane mode most of the time, apart from the internet at the apartment and the free internet around the cities that you can log into if you have like a social media account or email account. It was challenging. I mean, it was mostly a like tech detox, but it got challenging at times. If I want to go back, which short answer, someone asks me, hey, Spanish Gallon, do you want to go back to Japan? Short answer, yes. Realistic answer, long answer, as long as a couple things are met, sure. One, if I'm gonna go back for leisure, for a vacation, for time off, just to like visit, I need to have a lot of American money and again, get an IC card so it's like convenient. I need to have someone like a translator so I could get a much more authentic experience or get better at the language myself. Just some level of knowledge of the Japanese language. Awesome. Third time around, have a much more clear structure and plan. For example, like I'm going there for 2 weeks, doing this, and that, with some side activities in between that are my choosing. But basically, nailing down the details, the big picture details. I'm gonna be in this city on this day. Now I could get a hotel and not have to worry about it, or get or the rail pass and not have to worry about it. But it would be different. The two things are important. The third thing is optional, but it's still recommended. Now, if you are planning a trip not just to Japan, but like just a trip in general, I would advise you to do a few things. One, what or know why you're going, or rather, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What is your goal? And then from that, everything else can follow. For example, what is your goal? See the country. Perfect. What days are you going to go from this day to that day? Perfect. What you could do is now go to this city and then this city and then this city and this city. And you're going to be doing a lot of trips. So you're going to need comfortable wear. So you could walk and walk and walk. And then you can get a hotel in the city, and then that one the next day, and then that one the following. You could really plan it out. But let's say, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to experience the culture. You can go to a couple of main cities, for example, Japan, Kyoto, and Osaka. Really rich in culture. You could spend most of your 2 weeks there. Maybe you want to get divest into food. You could stay at a couple cities again. Maybe you want to live amongst the locals. You could go to a city, but then explore around the area using local transportation. So you could visit a lot of rural sites like Kyushu or Shikoku. What do you want to do? Important. And from that, you could plan it out as you go. So focus first on what do you want to do, then focus on places, dates, times, and then transportation / accommodations. I would say get the high details first out of the way, and then leave the smaller details as sort of chance, which is what I did for most of this trip. I took a lot of back roads here, but I would not have changed it for the world because I really got to see a side of Japan that I don't see online. It was nice. Like when I went to Kojima, I just got off at Kojima. I was in Shikoku. I fooled myself, but it was such a quaint, quiet little town, and I was just like, yeah, I like this. And then I went to Hokkaido, and I kind of botched that, but again, so beautiful that even when I botched it, it was like, I'm glad I did this. Again, get the main stuff. Why do you want to go? What are you going to do? Then you could plan out the dates, the locations, and the accommodations, which I would say are the biggest part. Then you could figure out stuff like money, transportation, food, all that stuff. Now, is Japan the only place I'd like to visit again? No. If I were to ever travel again, it would be, my future is a bit uncertain right now, but when I have a little more certainty, maybe South Korea. But my heart, my soul goes to Spain. But I really want to spend some time there, like a month or so. And I don't know if I can get that with my current position. Spain, for sure. That would be my next destination. I wouldn't mind going to South Korea, Austria, Greece, Italy, Morocco even, but not right now. Maybe in the future. Poland, Japan again would be nice. Maybe even China. A couple European countries, a couple more Asian countries. I would really like to travel in the US as well, just to see the different states and their different cultures. Probably step in each of the 50 states one time. Done about 10 or so. Hawaii, California. I don't count visiting an airport as being in the state, but technically. Washington, Idaho, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Texas. If I'm including airports, Illinois, New York, Virginia, North Carolina, 15 states or 14 states. I'm about 28% of the way there, but I really want to like spend some time in the States anyway. But for that, I'll do like a road trip. That is my trip in a nutshell. Thank you for spending your time with me. But anyway, I have been your host, Spanish Galleon, and as always, Viva Cristo Rey, arriba Hispanidad, adelante hispanos, adios.